it is just my pleasure to have all of these women with all of these accolades and the things that you guys are doing in the community. And this is a beautiful thing for us to come together and just talk and just chop it up. But first, we want to get some business together. The first line of business here is, listen, I need everyone to subscribe to BlackBoxRadio.com. You two ladies, subscribe to BlackBoxRadio. Not to Instagram and Facebook. That's their stuff. Subscribe to my stuff. BlackBoxRadio.com. Okay, sisters?
Yes.
And everybody out there,
Tell them where on YouTube, right?
That's
I said tell them where on YouTube, right?
We are on YouTube too. We have a YouTube channel, and you subscribe to our actual website, which is BlackBox.
Oh, I did
We
not.
have an actual website.
Either, see?
Yeah, that's what I want you to subscribe to, because that starts the email list, and when we have things, I can connect. I don't have to go to Zucky and ask Zucky what he got for me. No, I need to be able to get to my sisters straight away. Okay, sisters?
All right.
I'm on there. Okay.
All right, and everybody. All right, so the first line of business is, remember our last small business owner, Kira, who had the nail fetish salon? She's going through some health challenges.
Oh, wow.
So I want to first start out by wishing her well and her family, and hope that she recovers soon. But she has a major health challenge that she's actually challenged with right now. So we want to ring her name out. We want to pray for her and hope that she gets to better health as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Lift her up.
Okay, and then Jill Carter, I read, that she was on the first one, and I reached out to her just today, and she said that she's in a voting sessions, but her CEO, whoever works with her, called me and said maybe she'll be on later. So Jill might come in with us, so that'd be nice to see her if she comes in. And the last order of business is, we lost a soldier in Baltimore to violence, Dante Tater Barksdale. I just don't understand why we keep killing each other.
Yeah.
And this self-annihilation is not the way to deal with our trauma. We have to do better. This young man fought in safe streets. He was a captain. He was in the streets, and he got shot in the head on Sunday. He's been buried, I think, on yesterday. And we just want to say thank you for his life. Thank you for his contributions. And we as Black people, we have to do better. We cannot keep slaughtering each other like this. It has to stop. We are better people than this.
Yeah.
So we want to just start by, just really paying homage to his life, because he gave so much, and then he in turn gave it, the streets took his life. And so I just wanted to say that. So we got through all the business, ladies. It's time. It is time to make it happen. So where do we start? What you say, Kalila?
Kalila says, yeah.
When people go to Black Box Radio on YouTube, is it live or?
No, this is not. No, it is not. You mean what we're doing now? Is it live?
Yes.
No, it is not live. I use no one's platform other than something I can control.
Okay. Just making sure.
So I do no lives.
Advertised, and people are like,
You would have to send them that link.
Oh, send the link?
Yeah, send the link.
the Zoom link.
Yeah, send the Zoom link.
Oh, okay.
Once it's posted.
Facebook post?
Yeah, it's on Facebook. Whatever link that you guys use, you can send it to anyone.
Okay.
Oh, it says I'm already subscribed. I thought so. Okay.
Okay, good job.
I
All right.
did.
Tia, you with us, Tia? Because I know you're a boss. You're doing a lot of stuff over there. You with us?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm in the store and the delivery's coming in, and I got customers.
Multitasking, but she got
That's
it.
real talk, real talk.
I get it. I get it.
Overwork.
I love a boss. You're a boss all the time. Ain't nothing wrong with that. So, sisters, we got so much to talk about from the last time we were together. America, America, America. Lord, Lord, Lord. But first, we want to do a quick introduction. Everybody knows you guys got 500 letters behind your names, and you're doing a million things in the world. We get it. So just say who you are, what you do, and then let's get into the conversation, because we ain't gonna have enough time for all the stuff we got to say. All right, we're gonna start with you, Sister Lanice. Let's hit it.
Lanice Stevenson, fellow Hopkins, founder of Center for Applied Research and Equity in Education, so care and education, and just education, social justice advocate.
Excellent. Asia?
I'm Asia. I am a mommy and an actress and a writer and an educator. And this is my new book behind me. It's called Before I Burn Out.
Let us see it.
Yeah.
Let us see that
Yes,
book.
hold it up, celebrate.
Yeah, bring that book so we can see that book. What is
That
it?
one has a candle in
And
it.
it needs to be in Urban Reads. Why ain't that book in Urban Reads? I'm gonna need you to put it together.
Talk to Miss
That'd be excellent.
Bianca. I'm gonna give her a call. She's on my list. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
Bring
get them
that
together.
book back. What are you doing? Lord have mercy. What are you doing?
I'm here. I'll just
Okay, there's the book.
Candle. There you go.
This is your new book.
Yes.
That should be in Urban Reads very soon.
Before I Burn Out, Tales, Trials, and Triumphs of a City School Teacher. That's
Oh, beautiful.
That joint about to sell out.
All right, Sister Tia, come on with it. Before you get a delivery, talk to us.
Delivery just came right here sitting next to me. I am TMS Cornerstone Hamilton. I am the owner of so many things. WMSKOnlineradio.com. I'm the owner of Urban Reads, co-owner of Urban Reads Bookstore. I brought my parents involved to make them first-time business owners. So they co-own, and I'm sitting inside the bookstore right now. I'm right here in Baltimore. I am the owner of State vs. Us magazine. And I kicked off the first issue with me on the cover, and it tells my story. It talks about the success stories of formerly incarcerated individuals like myself. It talks about wrongful convictions. It talks about the corruption that goes on in the prison system, the police department, the government. I have segments in there for mental health, financial literacy, real estate advice, cannabis, some models to take a mental break, but it's a whole bunch of knowledge, and there's men and women that are interviewed who are incarcerated right now, controlling their narrative and telling their story.
Yes.
So it's a dope situation. It's on 7 prison catalogs. It's in Canada, UK, Books A Million bookstores, Barnes and Nobles, and inside my bookstore. So if you copy, we'll give you all that information. But this is I just got an email today from a guy. He reached out and he said, I want to talk to the person who interviewed me because I need her to know that her magazine helped me get free.
Ooh, Ashe.
And he the 4th person. I'm on issue number 5. My issue 5 come out Monday. And he the 4th person since issue 1 to now to tell me that this magazine helped them come home. And I'm also archiving the Strongberg Center, the Black History Research Library in Harlem, New York. So my magazine is part of research and studies.
Love it. Where's Urban Reads? You know, somebody might see this in Japan. Give us that address.
2008 Greenmount Avenue, baby, pull up. Put it in here. And no adults work here, just teenagers. So I have my son and my little brother. I trained them to run this store so I can leave and go wherever I want. And this store will run itself. They know how to do inventory. They know how to manage. They know how to count. They know what customers. And this store runs by them. So that's the goal. And then my son graduate high school. And then next year, my little brother does. So my thing is I'm going to train up 2 more teenagers and teach them how to run this space and teach them about stocks and how to handle a business and what you're supposed to do. Because they're not going to work for nobody.
Excellent.
Love it.
We're
Love
going
it.
to creating generational wealth and teaching how that thing run over here, like other cultures.
There
I
you
love
go.
it. You are a pitch
There you
generator.
go.
You gotta sit down. You a pitcher. I love that. You a pitch generator.
Yeah, right now I'm working on my my transitional housing and temp agency because I'm gonna hire these felons and I'm bringing people home who did 10 years or longer from prison.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Sister Ethiopia.
Hello, Hotep family. I am Theopia Jackson. I am a licensed clinical psychologist, but my real value for me is currently serving as the president for the Association of Black Psychologists. My focus has always been our people, where my psychology is in the service of our people. And I find myself in various places on what they call trauma, I call living Black. And the word trauma and resilience is not good enough for what we actually embrace in terms of our spiritness. So I'm blessed to be here on behalf of all of ABSI in support of the beautiful work that our sisters here are doing and abroad.
Amazing. Sister KamaLa, come on with it. Bring them knockers in here.
All right, I am KamaLa Harris, and just for the idiots who, you know, don't put respect on our names, I'm Dr. KamaLa Harris. Sometimes
It again.
sometimes say it according to my student loans, but you know, I'm so glad to be here with you as always, and with all you sisters. My career spans both what I do in my personal life to professional life. In fact, my therapist says I need to find some creative outlets that don't include shaking tables for social justice. So I'm officially a managing director of K-12 education policy at the Center for American Progress and a non-resident senior fellow at the Maryland Center on Economic Policy.
Excellent.
And I am a mom to 3 daughters. And one is almost out the door. Won't he do it? Will he? Won't he? All day. So have my oldest is a senior. She's headed to college in the fall. I'm so proud of her.
Where's she going?
She's going to the University of Pennsylvania.
Excellent.
Right.
Nice.
Yep. So I tried to hold her arm behind her back for HBCU, but you know, I got 2 more tries.
Yep.
And proud Morgan State University alum.
Yay, good for
You
you.
never say it. You know that's right. All right, Sister Stacy, come on with him. Sister Stacy.
I think she's frozen.
Yeah, I think she is. All right, I was trying to leave our spark plug to the last because you know Tanya Banya. That's the spark. That's the sauce. Go ahead, Sister Tanya.
I'm a lot mellower in the last 24 hours for some reason.
For some reason.
For some reason, yeah. So Tanya Banya. I'm an employment lawyer, a workplace rights and civil rights attorney. Yeah, I fight bullies, stand up to giants, hold them accountable with a laptop. Yep, that's what I do.
Love it.
And can you tell us a story of the beautiful, gorgeous lady hanging over your shoulder?
Isn't she beautiful? Yeah, so I mean, so when I, a couple of years ago, when my business finally got to a place where it was like stable, like it was clear that like I had enough years of owning my own practice that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be here. My husband actually was the one who encouraged me to do something for myself because I don't. And he was like, you know, and I think that I had seen a portrait of the Obamas or something, I don't know, I saw something and I looked that up and it was like, I couldn't afford it. But then I found this artist from New York who takes historic images, iconic historic images, and recreates them with Black women as the focus, and also with really kind of deep embedded imagery in the pictures. So you can't really see it, but like there's a necklace and like a cage hanging from the model's neck, and it actually shows a lynching. And so, you know, and if you were to just look at the piece casually, you know, you wouldn't see all of the depth and thoughtfulness that goes into it, but it's deep. And, you know, I don't want art in my house that's frivolous. You know, I want art in my house that's meaningful. I can't have, you know, I can't just have a lynching in my house because I got to deal with ugliness out in the world and in my work all the time. So I want beauty when I come home, but I don't want frivolous beauty. And so yeah, I appreciate you commenting on it because I love it. I think she's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, her eyes are already coming through even in this image. You know, I can still feel her gaze. So, so thank you for sharing. And my apologies, my dear sister Queen, but I'm sure you're.
No, I like when you
already.
You know, you got carte punch. Go do what you do.
I'll put her information in the comments on.
Thank you.
Facebook.
Sister Smith, are you unfrozen?
Hey.
There you go.
How you guys doing? So glad to be with you all tonight. See, I see this, what you call BLaKGirl MaGiC tonight.
All day.
I'm glad to be among it. I'm Dr. Smith. I'm an epidemiological criminologist. I am currently overseeing the aerial surveillance independent study at Morgan State for the aerial technology that they're trying to implement in Baltimore.
Okay, good.
Eye in the sky.
Yeah, eye in the sky, that is me right now.
Exactly. And you got to, before we start, you got to tell me, what is, I can't even say it. What is it?
Epidemiological criminology.
Work with a sister. What's that, sis? What is that?
Basically, we look at the tipping points of criminal and between criminal and healthy behavior juxtaposed to the biomedical and behavioral disparities.
I would love to interview you.
And I hope you
Wait a minute,
I hope you
boss.
start your case study for that
You see how boss always jumps in? They go,
person
boss.
just stepped down.
I get it. Yeah, y'all definitely got a link, because that's amazing. Okay, we're gonna jump in. First, I think we got to talk about what happened yesterday. I'm sorry, I can't.
We have a vice president that look like us. Listen.
Yes, we got to talk about yesterday.
And let's be very clear.
Now we got to hold her accountable starting today.
This is my HU sister, because I'm also Howard Bison as well too.
Oh,
yeah.
I celebrated Howard yesterday.
Wow. Okay, so what do you ladies think of the whole just the inauguration? We're not talking about TrumpY. We're not talking about what went on before, just the inauguration, the ceremony. Michelle came in there, killing it. No, she didn't. She came in and spanked everybody.
On TV ragging, okay?
So tell me what you think.
Here's what comes up for me is if we pay close, because again, it's the social scientist in me. If we pay attention to the messaging that came through yesterday, if we as Black and brown folks don't understand our power right now, and our opportunity right now, shame on us for the history books moving forward. Because the intentionality of the ceremonies, the intentionality of who's showing up and who's being moved forward to take leadership roles. And we also know that as this happens, somebody else is going to feel nervous. I don't need to say those certain names. Someone else is going to feel nervous because they feel like like retaliation is about to come through because of their own guilt. But more specifically, I hold this administration and all of us accountable now for moving the pendulum forward towards a greater humanity. Because that's who we are. That's how we got here. We do not globally take on the insanity in which we're exposed to. We still have the residuals of that's showing up in our communities when we're trying to hurt and kill each other. That's us taking on someone else's madness. But on a global level, yesterday should be a clear message for us of our collective responsibility to move this forward and not let go. Hold everybody accountable and ourselves accountable. That was a power statement all day long.
And you're right. I most certainly agree with everything you're saying. But now we have to go and talk to the ones who are hurting. We have to communicate better. And we have to provide the adequate resources that's needed. Because now it's time to put our foot on these two necks. And I'm pretty sure that they feel bad for the things that they've done in their past. Hence why this is the time now. They were needed in this time to give back to what they broke down. Same thing I do. I broke down my community by selling drugs to grandmothers, to uncles, somebody's father. And I did other things that I shouldn't have done. And now I'm back giving back. So this is where Joe and KamaLa come in play, where we gotta hold them accountable. And I want people to stop thinking that once the election is over, that's it. Yeah. You know, people forget what they said, what they promised, all of that stuff. So we got to get back on track, and we got to stay on track the same way you on track at these football games and sports and fantasy and Call of Duty and everything, Madden. You on track for every Madden that drop. We got to stay on track with everything they doing, and we need to pay attention to our local electeds too, and what they're doing and who they aligning themselves with and who and what they are not doing and what they should be doing. And we need to just get them out there. We need to expose them, because you have Google, something we didn't have growing up. The research is there for you to know what you need to know. So we just gotta be able to hold ourselves accountable and make sure that while we holding them accountable, we're holding ourselves accountable too. We can't expect them to do any more than what we're not doing.
Exactly.
I'm not doing anything. I can't be from sitting on the couch in my house fussing and cussing at KamaLa and Brandon Scott when I'm on my couch. Nothing can get done without the people who put them there. So we gotta be mindful on what our roles are and what we play with each other in this community that we live in. And we're gonna be fine as long as we just act right.
Sister T, you brought that home. You know, I can't say enough to people. We have to, people talk to me about the election November 3rd. I'm like, I'm preparing for November 4th, not November 3rd. People talking about the inauguration yesterday. I'm like, I'm preparing for January 21st, not January 20th, because we can't expect people to do more for us than we do for ourselves. And the fact of the matter is there are so many people out there who we really need to be providing the resources to, and also humble ourselves not to think that we have the answers for everybody in our community. We have to do policy with people, not to people. We can't take on the role of the oppressor and really push white supremacy forward by taking the place of people who want to tell us what to do, instead of you know, locking arms with our neighbors and like, what is it that you need? What is it that you want? Now, I'm not a believer that if you're not from the hood, you can't do right by the hood. And I'm not a believer if you don't remain in the hood, you can't do right by the hood. I think that's also a crabs in a barrel mentality, because we're trying to say that we want to be better and do better. But if you're not still in the hood, then you can't help the hood. Those two things don't go together. That's also white supremacy at work. But I will say, you know, if you ain't been in the hood for a hot minute, then you need to talk to people directly impacted by the policies and the ideas that you are trying to move forward. And I don't care who's in the White House. The government has never been made for Black liberation. It was founded on Black oppression. It was founded on genocide. I always, always, always like to thank the Lenape people and Susquehannock people who did not relinquish the land that I live on, but they were stewards of this land that made it possible for all of us to be here or wherever we are. So I pay homage to them, but that's what our country was built on. And we cannot, you know, people are all caught up in, you know, oh, Baltimore, Brandon's so Baltimore. I'm like, what does that mean? Brandon's been a politician for 11 years. You know,
Brandon's born in Baltimore. Hello, like,
I mean, he's born in Baltimore, but he's been a politician for 11 years.
Yeah.
And but they're saying Brandon's Baltimore like with a double-edged sword, right? It's like he's hood like me, or he's ignorant like me, so I fool with him. Like, what the heck does that mean? Like with the incident with Shorty, like, you really think the mayor of Baltimore is so immature that he's just calling some random man on the street Shorty and trying to son him? I don't think so. He is competent, and so don't underestimate not only his competence, but his willingness to be a part of the establishment or progressive. And that's what we need to be paying attention to. You don't just say somebody's progressive because you like them, or they speak with the same accent you have, or they keep a fro. You call somebody progressive who enacts progressive policy that works for you and works with you. Same thing with KamaLa. That's my soror, went to HBCU. I'm a first-gen citizen. My parents are Costa Rican and Jamaican. You know, we might be cousins. I don't know. However, KamaLa, she's going to have to do what she needs to do, and that administration is going to have to do what it needs to do to advance racial equity and advance progress. And for so long, the Democratic Party, again, when it comes to establishment thinking and ideology, you know, we have allowed for people to say, let's see what we can get done during this legislative session. Let's see what we can get done during this session of Congress, as opposed to advocating for what we must have. Now, if we could negotiate backwards from what we must have, all good. But if our starting place is, here's what I think we can get done, we're not actually advocating for anybody and anything, and we're gonna be in the same position for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. I'll put you in that seat and I'll take you out. I'm not voting for mayor of Baltimore to see who can be most cool with me. You're gonna have to make some change, because we done been through, this one was arrested, this one was arrested, this one was pushed out. you know, whosoever for corruption. Yet we're expecting those same people to ask the police to treat us like humans. And we're expecting those same people who look like us to do right by us. I said it before on this platform, all our skin folk ain't our kinfolk. And we need to be mindful of who not only we put in office, but what kind of deals are they doing that support white supremacy versus support our liberation. And I think people don't know the difference, and it's incumbent on those of us who do. SisTa, I need to come bring my jug of water with the lines in it that says, you know, you could drink some more, and my patty and cocoa bread, and sit up in the store with you so we could rap, because
Bring me some oxtails and jerk girl.
listen, with extra gravy, and you know,
Cheese and rice, no plantains. Thanks.
I love it.
listen, because you know, you need to connect with people who get it and understand and have humility, not people who are using justice initiatives to build a brand or, you know.
I had that same conversation earlier because I'm starting my transitional housing. And I said that my transitional housing will be so serious, it's gonna force the government to look at these other companies, and it's gonna force them to either get right or shut down. And it ain't gonna be because I made a phone call to snitch. It's gonna be because I'm so right that this is what it's supposed to look like. Don't take the pain of my brothers and sisters back and you making money on that because prison reform is cool. You don't give a damn about prison reform for real. You care about what that body gonna bring you. Incarceration, private prison strategy. They get paid per body, just like schools, the school to prison pipeline. Every child that's in Baltimore City, they get a check.
That's right.
Everybody that walked through that door. And the same thing is with prison, the same thing with foster care. All of this is foster care to prison pipeline, school to prison pipeline, and we gotta stop it. So we just have to get people to understand that this is not a game. These are people's lives that these people are playing with because they want money. You got places they get $200,000 a head. Just because that buy, you got judges who gotta make a quota. Police make a quota. Why do these people have quotas? That means they are intentionally out here getting people jammed up because they got a quota to meet. So we take these quotas off of what they need to be. This is not no Amazon warehouse and all that. That's where you put quotas at. You put quotas on how many lines you can sell in the phone store. You don't put quotas on my people's body. And that's what they're doing. So we just got to be able to say, when is enough going to be enough? When we stop all this pipeline to prison and force and hold these people accountable, because there will be no prison if they provide resources where they're supposed to be.
Since I don't want to, for everyone, I don't want to monopolize, because you and I sound like we could talk for hours.
Sure, it sounds like y'all going to monopolize.
Well, a little bit. But, you know, what I will also say is we heard a lot during the last 4 years from both parties about, you know, well, we're going to do criminal justice reform. We're going to end school to prison pipeline. We're going to, and they kept focusing on the criminal justice system, like most Black people in jail. And I'm like, well, last I checked, I went up in the suburbs and the Black kids at those schools weren't being recommended for the college tour or for AP.
They're getting suspended. And they're getting suspended for bullshit.
And they're getting suspended. And, you know, they, mama and daddy got some money to take them out to the suburbs. So I want to make sure that as we advance, and this is what I was saying about you, if you're not from the hood, you're not really real. Or listen, here's the thing. There is no corner of this country where we can hide from white supremacy. So if we're saying, if you have something, you can't fight for racial justice. And if you, you know, haven't been locked up or don't have a relative who's been locked up, you can't speak on making sure our people are not being subjected to quotas. We're not gonna make it, because if we're spending our conversation on the ways they only, that people demoralize us in systems.
Divisive.
Right. You got to do the whole thing, because every time they said during the debates, well, the criminal justice, I'm like, you know, those kids won't end up in jail if we talk about the other issues, right?
Right.
If you end the redlining and predatory lending, if you are providing, like T just said, if you're providing resources, you know they don't end up in prison. But you want to talk about the tail end and not the front end of how we people have access to opportunities. So we also have to be better about that. We can talk about defund, we can talk about abolition, but that is not the only condition of our people. And as long as we don't do the whole thing and push for the whole thing in terms of liberation, we're going to keep picking at the edges and not actually get the policies we need.
But wait, we have to expand the conversation even deeper. What we've been talking about here is naming the mess that we're sitting in. All that's real. But as our ancestors have taught us, no one's going to do this for us. No one's going to gift this back to us. Yes, I want to celebrate what just happened yesterday, but it doesn't mean that we sit down, exhale, and our work is done, because they do not hold most of the power anyway, right? It really is who we're holding accountable in our own streets, in our own families, in our own selves. This is in the spirit of Kuti-Jakalia. We have to be self-determined. We have to name what's going on. It's not about trying to identify our Blackness around, do we have an intimate connection to the hood? First and foremost, our connection is our melanin, first and foremost. And so let's not get twisted by the zip code.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I am because we are because I am. I can't sit safely in any zip code and feel like while damage is happening to others. And that's part of the game. We bought in, we drank the Kool-Aid and forgot to see our Blackness, and instead we saw our zip codes. And even if I sit in one zip code, my family intimately is experiencing all the variety ways of which Black folks are sitting in messes, even with all these letters behind my name. I want to say that, being the mother of the children I have, coming through the story I came through, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. I can sit and say, everything you think of when they call it at risk, I want to thank the ancestors. I had no idea I was at risk as I was going through all that mess. So I can give you a long list of what I have, quote, survived, if you will, okay? But my point is, my next generation, I am blessed that God has allowed me the privilege to be the parent of these 3 beautiful children who are nothing but good Blackness out in the world. So I just want to kind of say, I concur with naming the mess, but I also think where we miss conversation sometimes is being intentional about our collective Blackness and being intentional about uplifting every one of us and moving forward and making it for ourselves. Because like I said, I can't put it on the folks who just got into office yesterday. They're just a start. They can only be as successful as we are in our own agency. Wow. And it's more than just holding folks accountable. I mean, the sisters on this call, you are living and breathing it, right? You are being. The more we show up in all our communities and look at the genius of our babies and tell them this is your rightful place. Like, I'll stop after this, sister, because I get inspired. So I was being interviewed about, so what your parents say to children about the insurrection. I was like, that's a distraction. Because for my generation, we are the children of the civil rights. And my parents were the children of Jim Crow. Their parents are the children of enslavement. Our children have been growing up in a space of watching adult madness forever. But what has inspired each and every one of us is the reality that as we see what is happening to our people, we recognize our responsibility for making it more better when we grow up. That's where our focus should continue to be. Lifting up and messaging to all of our people that this is your right. You're not asking for anyone's permission. No one's going to do it for you. I don't need your handout. And just because you're in that good of a school does not mean that you are any better than someone in that kind of a school. But at the end of the day, they're going to ask you all to pick up and take the books or tote the bail. And when they get ready to take some of us out, they don't sit and say, excuse me, what zip code are you from? And what's your IQ? And what's the degrees behind you? They're taking every one of our babies.
Yeah. So can I speak on the inauguration yesterday?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to acknowledge the fact that when we talk about systemic racism, we talk always about how people of color are represented in the media. And so I took a moment to soak in all of the positive things, all the positive messages that our children needed to see. I was happy that my Black son, who's more housebound, is able to see Blackness, Black excellence, although he sees it in his family and he sees it in, people who he knows. I need him to see it consistently because for 5 years, he did not see that.
Yes.
He didn't see that when he turned on a TV. So I took in the fact that children across the world were able to see peoples who look like them.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's
And
right.
for me, when I think about, and I spoke about this the last time we were on, I look at everything through a systems theory, right? Everything is about the systems. And you all spoke about that quite a bit. But if we don't, so because, you know, we have a new president, new vice president, Madam Vice President, that's great. But if the policies, as Dr. Harris said, stay the same, that's where the issue comes in. But there are 3 forms of government. So when we just focus on the executive branch, that's one of the fallacies because they're doing their thing, they have their agenda, but we also have to make sure that every single branch is doing their job at every single level. So when I think of how I impact policies and things like that, we have policies, we have regulations. You can have policies, you can have regulations and still have nothing done. It's just words on a paper. So how do we make those things actionable? And how do we uplift people who are in the trenches, on the ground, doing the work? I mean, I sit in a lot of leadership councils at Hopkins. And a lot of times I'm saying to them, well, we're trying to make decisions for people who are not even at the table.
Yeah.
So my job is to bring those people to the table,
Yes.
to uplift
Yes.
their voices, to use my platform, shut my mouth and allow them
Yes.
to talk in my place. And I don't see that enough. I see people get in positions of privilege, whether they're Black, whatever, and they lose it. And
Yes.
we don't realize our blind spots a lot of times. We carry so much of the same white issues that white people have, but we think because we have brown skin that we don't, and we don't do our work. So I hold myself
Absolutely.
accountable first before I hold anybody else accountable for anything. And I understand what my privilege and power offers me that I can then offer into the world.
Ashe, how do we leverage it for our people? There was an article that just came out yesterday from the American Psychiatric Association where they are authoring an apology to Black folks for their role as an industry in doing wrong by us in their sitting in the seat of systemic oppression. So as a psychologist, I'm saying to the American Psychological Association, I don't want to see you just denounce what's happened out here in the world. Instead, I want to see you hold yourself accountable. How do you look within the industry and recognize how white supremacy ideology and capitalism are still at bay? Because most of their silence is around their own capital gain when they're engaging in this power defense. So I want to appreciate what you said, Sister Lanice, in terms of the quote, most smarter we are, the more responsibility we have to leverage every piece of our voice and power to our communities and to our people. And
Can I get that contact information on that article? Because
I'll drop it in here. I'll drop it in here for everyone.
yeah, we need land and money too while they at it.
All day, all
Take
day.
it all day, all day.
All day.
Lock up and take it and own it.
Say something. I know you got something over there. Come on. Come on, Tanya.
So, you know, I don't know where to start. I mean, first, let me just say that I have been so busy with work and that I have not, and also I hate Donald Trump so much that I have just kind of tried to disconnect as much as possible until yesterday. And it wasn't until the night before the inauguration that I had this like epiphany that the vice president is going to be a brown woman, a woman that Black and brown little girls all over the country can look at and feel like this is actually something that is really attainable in a real way, not just like lip service, but like really attainable. Now we know it's not really because we still have, you know, broad disparities in educational opportunity and equal employment opportunities. So, but representation matters, and just seeing an inauguration that looks like America, because that's what it is. That's all it is. For 5 years, we have seen a whitewashed, white bread, you know, white utopian version of America that is false. And it is a reflection of the insecurities and nervousness of the browning of America. And that's why you look at Donald Trump's administration, you look at his appointments, his political appointments, you look at his judicial appointments, it's all white people. And so I do think that we deserve to just take a moment to breathe, because I feel like the entirety of the former administration has been an added layer of trauma that's just been in the background for me for the last, 5 years. I also think that we have to look at all of the aspects of the American experience that continue to be dominated by white supremacy. It isn't enough to look at criminal justice reform. We do have to look at educational policy reform. We do have to look at employment, because the fact is the same disparities that we're talking about in criminal justice exist everywhere. Everywhere. There is not a place in our lives where we are not impacted every single day, and it doesn't matter what zip code we live in. It doesn't matter how many letters that we have behind our name. It does not matter. We are all, if you are Black and brown looking in America, you are impacted every single day, multiple times a day, by white supremacy and discrimination. And so we have to be honest about that. We're not being honest about it right now. When George Floyd was killed, the Chief Judge of Maryland put out a statement where she lamented the disparities that contribute to something like that happening and committed to equal, justice before the law. What the fuck did she do? She didn't do anything.
Yes.
She did nothing. And I'm in court every day dealing with judges, primarily white women, white men, and Black men. Because we, the people in this discussion, are grossly underrepresented in the federal system. And so I'm dealing with judges who are basically subjecting me to the same, I'm not dying, I'm not being killed, but the fact is the disparities that happen in that system impact my clients. And these are situations where they're playing with my client's life, okay? When you dismiss a claim for a Black man who's been fired wrongfully because he didn't like being called the N-word, you are trivializing his life. You are playing with his life. And white people do that every single day. So we have to get honest about that. And we can't allow our discomfort with ruffling the feathers of our ostensibly liberal allies to prevent us from calling it what it is.
And we can't be silenced by being referred to as the angry Black woman, or you're too passionate, which is their other code word for it, right? I just want to say too, the generations who came before us did what they need to do. And the ones who are coming after me should no longer be silent. For psychologists who are being trained, they should demand, why aren't they seeing Black psychology in their curriculum right now? Why aren't they being taught our indigenous healing practices and conceptualizing optimal mental health from our cultural center place, which is more about our connected spiritness, and that not all is treated through this thing called therapy, particularly in its traditional way, one-to-one therapy, and I'm in control of what you're supposed to be doing. Our healing, we are doing our best medicine right now. Yeah. These types of kitchen table conversations, real talk, crossing these lines is part of what keeps us, quote, in our right mind and keeps us centered. This is what we should be expecting all the time. And going back to what Sister Lanice was saying, when we enter into a space, if it's for our people need to be at the table. I want to call out APA. The American Psychological Association just put together, once again, a presidential task force on looking at policing in Black communities.
For no Black people.
And thank you. And more specifically, they're still focused only on their medicine, this thing called evidence-based practices, where we're reducing everyone's lived experience to a quantifiable number to change of a behavior. That's surface stuff. This is deep thought stuff. The kind of insidious madness that we're dealing with is in the core, the fabric, the DNA.
You know how we get rid of it, though? We got to gut it out, burn it up, start over.
Absolutely. But my people need to know that that's what's happening, so that when they pass their ideas and they're coming in and they're getting it funded, I want to make sure my people have their voice to say, no, that's not good enough for us. Go back.
But sis, we also got to recognize, we also got to recognize that all our people ain't gonna be ready to go. All our people not even ready for this conversation right now.
You know, but we still having it. We're still having it. They're here.
Yeah, we're gonna still have it because that's what we're supposed to do. But our people are not ready to come and sit down and listen to leaders have this discussion. And white people, they may be a little bit ready, but they really not ready for their truths about their ancestors either.
I don't know, sis. I got to challenge you a little bit on that, because what we've experienced having these critical conversations, we have 1.5K people following us on a Zoom platform and engaging with, a Facebook platform. I want to keep us open-minded for both and. That's still their story that we're buying into, that we won't. But we have to say, okay, some of us may not be, but we're going to still keep moving forward, because guess what? The village will show up if we expect them to show up.
And I'm not saying not show up, not keep having conversations, because that's what we're going to do, because we're supposed to do that.
Right.
Saying that is with me being out here in the streets, 10 toes down, boots on the ground, with these little youngins out here in these communities, they are not ready for these conversations.
That's okay. Plant the seed, plant the seed, plant the seed.
Yeah. So for me, because I'm a researcher, I wanted to push back just a teeny bit around, the power of research. Research is my form of advocacy, my first form of advocacy, because I recognized before I even went into research, the power of it, and how unless I'm able to show that something is happening, then I can't get anything funded. I can't change best practices. I can't do any of those things. I can't do it at a larger level, right? So we talk about going in to figure out what is the root cause. The issue is that we do that either or. Oh, I had to collect this quantitative data, just these numbers to replace people. But we do have mixed methods. We can uplift the voices and publish the voices of people on the ground who are impacted by, whatever the situation is. And that's what I'm a proponent of more. Being able to collect that large scale data that is generalizable, that changes practices, but also elevating the voices of the people. Because what I often see in my research, when I'm trying to be able to explain something that I know actually works, when I'm looking at grassroots organizations who are making a difference, but I can't get them funding, I can't do anything until I'm actually able to document what they're doing. And the only way we can do that is through research.
Sister Lanice, you're not pushing back. We're on the same page. So I appreciate the opportunity to clarify. I concur. I'm just saying it's not enough. It's not the only way. There are community-defined practices. It's once again shifting, right? We have an opportunity once again to change how the funders even think about what needs to be funded. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a both and, because the numbers are one thing, but I would submit to you, when we look at the increase of suicidal ideation and attempt among Black children right now, this is happening under this idea of a plethora of evidence-based practices that have proven themselves. And that's because in that bell curve of work, the majority of our folk are in the wings, and they're not looking at the cultural specificness of us. Absolutely. They're looking at the middle, and then they say, oh, this works, and so therefore it's supposed to work for everybody. So please, we are on the same page. I'm just wanting to I want more. I want a deeper level. And community-defined practices is it, because many of our, like think about the work that our dear sister, Boss Band, I'm trying to get her, pull her name back up here, help me out.
Yeah. Honestly,
okay, right. So the work that she's doing, okay, that's true evidence, but it's not going to make somebody's numbers for funding. That's the game. That's the game I want to shift. So, and you're right. So having woke researchers who can lend their voices and skill, in purposeful word, woke researchers who are once again leveraging their skill set to empower and partner with our folks' boots on the ground, changing the game of how we define what is successful.
Can I just jump in for a second?
Yep.
I just wanted to look at all these powerful.
Let me stop again. You got to jump in, because this is, all of a sudden, everybody's going to talk. You just got to say, I'm talking right now.
I know, but the conversation is so rich.
Go ahead.
And,
go ahead.
It's, the opportunity to hear my colleagues speak so passionately and to be so competent about what they're saying. And I'm listening, and we come from such eclectic backgrounds. It's really refreshing. One of the things that I say in another role that I wear, I'm the lead strategist for the Ministers Conference of Baltimore City and vicinity. And what we looked at a couple of years ago was how could we systematically look at how to bring all these gifts to the table, because even as I looked at the inauguration, and I'm sitting here looking at our sister Tanya, and I said, you know, we talk about progression, but when you walk into the courts, it's like you walk back in time. I remember I was in the court, and clearly I have a PhD, and I remember the judge refused to call me doctor. And I remember that stuck with me. And I was like, okay, this is different. But the thing that got me the most, and the reason why I brought up the systemic approach to how we bring all the gifts to the table in such a way that's productive for people of color and vulnerable populations, is that we have to look at the economy of a thing. And anything that we touch, whether it be the research or anything else that we're talking about, has to do with funding and our ability to get things, to generate money. And what continues to be an issue for me is we have not mastered that to the point that we become a formidable foe. And I say that because even though in the area of research, I'm in research as well, you pick and choose what you want to fund. And melanin has a lot to do with that. And so unless you have risen to a certain point or have certain people behind you, they won't fund you. In particular, if the research is touching upon what we're talking about today. I always tell people our ancestors, they did it and did it well. They set the foundation for us to springboard off of. And as I think about the ministers' conference, one of the things that we did was we set up hubs in respected and trusted institutions in various communities. And then we looked at how to do generational wealth, how to celebrate the cultures of respective communities. And the pushback was so immense because in each community, the first thing that we put out there, because you can't do this without building wealth, is that you would have commercial districts that were ran by community, in particular communities of color. It was not accepted in Baltimore and on the state level until they realized how they could make money. Until they realized how they can make money off. But the important thing to me was that money was being generated in your own community, and the black dollar would be circulated the way that we wrote it at least 10 times. We still are not in competition with other communities that have their dollar that goes around at least 13 or more times. But I think a lot of times I was really glad to see that the inauguration was very diverse, very diverse. The other day, what did he pick? The deputy secretary, the first transgender, you know, to hold that position. I think he's very methodic about how he's representing diversity. My issue is that I want to see diversity turn into an economy thing. When you talk about policies, how will these policies change situations for Black and brown people? How will it affect the woman? How will it affect vulnerable populations? What are these, how is it going to hit the grassroots? And I always tell my students in particular, and I know, I can't remember which one said the Black woman syndrome, when they call us the angry Black woman, we can't be afraid to go in there. And I have young women who have experienced this already in college. And I remember telling my student, and I hope we embrace this as a community. I said, you know the difference between my students of color and my white students? My white students come in knowing, you come in asking. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So I think that's what we need to approach it economically.
Absolutely.
This is not
sometimes
something.
we come in knowing, and white supremacy smacks you in the face. I mean,
right, but you have to hit it back.
That's I mean, but here's the thing: like we have systems that it's easy to listen. Every single day, what I'm doing is fighting with a blindfold on and one arm tied behind my back, because I'm fighting employers that are discriminating against people, and they have all the information and I don't have any of it. All I have is my client who comes to me and tells me they were discriminated against, and I have to rely on my gut instinct and my past experience to put together a case that's going to be successful. But the fact is, even now, I can go into a court with almost 20 years of experience practicing, credentials that, and I'm not a name whore, but with credentials that white people respect, okay? I can go into court and they will still tell me that I'm wrong when I am dead on balls right. They will tell me that white is black when I'm looking at the word white written on a okay? So we have to stop pretending that the system is so discriminatory that they don't see facts. And I'm fearless.
Correct.
You know, and I am. I have gone against, you know, people who could crush me 1,000 times over. That's not my issue. The issue is the system is structured to maintain white supremacy.
Absolutely.
And to prevent us from having our grievances heard on the merits. That's what we need. We need to realize we do have to unpack that. Hold Joe Biden and Kamala accountable, because they would not be there but for us. And I mean specifically the people in this meeting. Black women. They would not be there but for us. We're the most consistent voting bloc for them, period. And so you know, my question is, and Dr. Jackson, I'd be very curious to hear what you have to say about this. How do we get people to believe? Because so many of us we are just beaten down by life in America. I talk to so many people who have said to me, it's not going to make a difference. Yeah. It's not going to make a difference. You can't change it. It's not going to make a difference. Now, everybody here obviously has a different worldview, right? But how do we get people to believe in the possibility enough that they are willing to help and contribute and try?
By being as we're being. I mean that in its simplicity of complexity.
That's it.
Is every generation has had to deal with something. These are not new experiences. Every generation had those who were so beaten down. But see, we are a village. When one needs to sit down, there are others still standing up and lifting. The reality is we all can't sit down at the same time. So as you just listen to what's on this call, what our sister is doing in Baltimore, she's contributing to the next gen. You don't know, one of them teenagers that she's training right now may be the next quote president or whatever.
There you go.
Say, yes, family, embrace that we are in different places, but that should not detour us from our eyes on the prize. We got to keep on getting on. And our people will wake up when they wake up, because we do have some folks who just woke up from their own racial slumber when the murder of George Floyd happened, because they too drank the Kool-Aid and thought that we were post-racial.
You better know it.
So we are, but so don't get distracted by who you need to drag along. Instead, be clear about who's woke and lock up arms. See, we can't do this individually. In my mind, I took down all y'all names in your places, because when something comes at me, I'm gonna be vigilant. Boom, 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 boom. I need you. That's how we need to be rolling. Those of us, and Tony, I'll say too, what you need, how can AB side be of support to you as well too? How do we lock that arm up so when you're trying to plead the case for our people, that we are bringing in the psychology behind that demonstrates the kind of impact of what's happened to them that may have led to whatever they're dealing with. I'm just using that as an example. What I'm trying to say is we have to be smarter and actually lock arms across disciplines and build up our force. There's a proverb that says, if I know who I belong to, I fear no one. Our people are tired because they feel alone out there.
So you know, everybody in this Zoom session is clearly fearless, right? Okay, I'm just gonna be like really specific. So, you know, I have had my own practice for about 7 years. In the course of my practice, there are a number of companies that I have dealt with time and time again, big employers, major employers in the region that I've had cases with. And very recently, I have had a number of Black men come to me with accounts of discrimination and retaliation by a specific employer that I have had a lot of experience with. And I'm gonna start crying.
Don't cry.
And
it's okay. Release it, my sister. Release it.
And the thing that is so hard about it is, first of all, is that I feel like I have failed, because why didn't I see it sooner? Like, why didn't I see the scope of the problem sooner? Like, and then I feel like an asshole for crying because who gives a shit about me? Like, these men are losing their jobs. Like, they can't feed their babies. And I'm crying because I feel like a failure. And
first of all,
I
be
agree.
kind to yourself,
Agree.
and you should have the ability and the space to cry. So let's just start there.
Absolutely. Let's just start there. That's
You should
real
not hold
grief.
yourself accountable to be in a position as a savior. That's why you don't feel like you have the ability to cry. You should be able to cry and be kind to yourself, because that's going to be the fuel that re-energizes you so you can go back out there and fight. So you can do that. That is okay.
Absolutely.
That's number one.
That's number
Right?
one.
Otherwise, you'll implode, and you'll carry. It'll lead to your own depression, your own worry, your own anxiety. We have to honor what we feel. We have a right to scream. We have a right to scream. You know what I'm saying? If you keep kicking me, that's why I don't want to embrace this idea of resilience, because it simply means to be bouncing back. I need you to stop kicking me so I don't have to bounce back. So Sister Tanya, I can grieve for these brothers, grieve for yourself, and then get clear and cleansing for how we can work together and lift up. Absolutely.
And that's why you got to do it alone. That's why we fail all the time, because we are not like authentic. I'm not talking about, oh, we're here, we're partnering. We authentic partnerships where you can call me Tanya and be like, look, Lanice, this is what's going on. I just need you to hold space for me. We forget about that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's great. So Lanice, I'm glad you said that, because like your posts on social media resonate so much with me, because in the course of your work, like the course of my work, I am constantly every single day seeing Black and brown people who are being treated casually by white institutions, and the ugliness of it and the consequences of it, it's just draining. It's so hard. And
I have found the best way to dance the dance and make them dance with me. So it is not possible that I am invited as a Black woman who speaks the same way, no matter what place I'm in.
Tell it.
To be a thought partner to superintendents across the country. To be able to sit in these leadership councils and now be on steering committees at Hopkins, where nobody, you see, when I take pictures, nobody looks like me.
No one.
And I'm not just sitting there pretty. I let them know in the very beginning. Now, if you want transformational change, you want a thought partner who has been in the trenches and came all the way up and didn't forget where I'm coming from,
and will keep lifting up others.
Me. If you want to use my ideas, you're going to give me credit in here.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. But I'm also a servant leader. I never forget that I am there to serve. And so when you talked about how do you get people to believe, right now, I am developing and helping 1,000 employees in a district in New Jersey to understand who they are and how they show up. And that means that we have to engage them in interracial dialogue all the time in the midst of all of this, and create space where they realize that they are serving children. They're not there for children to serve them. And within that process, and most of them are white, and most of them may have voted for Trump. So I'm just kind of giving you the context. I could not go in with my mindset not right and go in and think I'm going to help them to transform their behavior and their mindsets.
Right.
Think about this. I didn't even say I wanted to change them, because I can't change them. But if I can get them to understand that they have a greater purpose in life that is well beyond their position, then I can get them to believe in something greater than themselves. It's that people have lost that belief because they've lost their core. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm asking. Like, I've always felt like I ignorantly, because my mother told me I could do anything. I've always believed I could do anything. Like that was the biggest.
You're doing it.
The biggest gift she gave me is that when I was like, oh, I'm gonna apply to Harvard. Like, it just never occurred to me that, you know, with my background, like I wasn't supposed to go to Harvard. I wasn't supposed to be there. It never occurs to me, even now. When I make my arguments, I expect to win everything, honestly. That's why every time I lose.
And you are. There's different ways of winning, my dear sister. There's different ways of winning. Yeah. And let me also say,
look at the doctor coming through. You hear the doctor? She coming.
Yes. Here's what's coming up for me. I want to make a formal invitation for all of us on this call in all woke Black folks to come home into ABC, because that is one of our charges, is to uplift each other. So you do not feel alone. So let's be clear, just because it says psychologist does not mean that this is only for psychologists. It's an open space. We have community activists, we have folks across the space, because we do know how important it is to sit in Black genius and Black love. So,
you got a new member on your hands.
Ashe, come on, because again, I'll be very clear too. I want to be even more intentional, because the more we bring in this type of Black geniusness, we will be a force to be reckoned with. We should not be exclusively one discipline. Come on home.
If we just act like we want to just sit at the same tables and have
absolutely.
I want to go back to what Tanya was saying. You said that on the line, you said that a lot of us, or most of you, in a group of fearless people, but we went through fearful times to get there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Stacey, one minute, Sister Stacey, 1 minute. Tia's gonna leave us, so I just want her, because she has to, she got to close up shop. So I wanted to get a last thought, and then you go ahead, Sister Stacey. So Tia, talk to us, and then we'll see you on the other one, on the next one.
I just want to, first of all, thank you for inviting me here with this dopeness, this awesomeness, amazingness. It's purpose and purpose driven and focused. Thanks to everyone who's on here listening, to all of us. We just need to be able to have more sisterhood and bring young sisters a part of the mission. In our Black communities, we don't necessarily raise our children to go and be entrepreneurs and go. We raise them, go to school, collect debt, pay back that debt by working for somebody else and getting more debt. We don't necessarily teach that. So I just challenge us to grab a little sister, or it could be someone older than you, that you could just go ahead and put in the right path in teaching them different things that we supposed to be learning 400 years ago. Well, we actually did. We taught them and they stole it. So, but we want to be able to have our men understand that you are needed.
Mm-hmm.
You need you. We love you. We appreciate you, King. It's just a matter of you understanding that the power stands with us. And we got you no matter what our Black men do to us. They whoop our ass. They talk about us in their rap music. They just do this and they do that and they disrespectful. I saw a guy disrespect an older lady right here in front of my store, and I had to go out there. It was like, that's not what we're gonna do over here. You're not gonna break this energy over here. So we gotta start holding each other accountable and making sure that they know they're gonna be held accountable. See, it's all about accountability. So that's the word of the year for me, accountability. And if I'm falling, people just need to hold me accountable too. See, the thing about me, I can embrace when I'm wrong, because I know when I'm wrong. We all know when we're wrong, more or less. So we just gotta be able to hold each other accountable. And as women, we not seen together enough. We not seen uplifting each other enough and showering each other with love. It take death or something tragic to happen to get that kind of attention. So I just appreciate you, sisters, and keep doing what you're doing. And Tanya, it's all right. It's good.
We got you. We appreciate you.
You want me to come up in that courtroom with you? I will.
Thank you.
All the judges, everybody gonna be like, wait a minute, I'll be your paralegal coming through to serve as the part they really need, because you can't. But I'll be that girl. So I just want everybody just, have a dope evening, stay safe, and let me know when it's time to come back. My travels start back next month. So
bless you, Tia, for all your work that you're doing.
We need to come together every quarter. So
okay.
Tell us about April. That's when we're coming together again.
And
so,
I'm gonna go ahead and get my security team out of here, unless y'all gonna help me pay for them.
Nah. We really appreciate you. You take care.
Appreciate you guys, and thank you. And just let me know. And I'm always available, and stay in touch.
All day. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right. So we broke out as Sister Stacey, but one thing, Asia Maxton, what are you doing over there? We need to hear your voice now. You on the panel. I ain't heard one word from you.
I wanted to finish my point before you moved on, Miss Queen.
Oh,
Good job, good job, Stacy. She
Go
said,
ahead, make
look,
your point.
I haven't finished yet. Good job, Stacy.
Make your point, Sister Stacy. I'm sorry.
No, because I sat and I listened to Tanya, and I could see a place I was at, and I'm for the young lady who got off, and also Dr. Jackson to speak about intentionality, because again, to become fearless, you go through a lot of fearful moments. You go through a lot of things that you find out the hard way. And one of the things I always said, and I always get on my colleague, Dr. Daniels, about, is that we need boot camp. We need boot camp, and we need some type of intentional way of really taking hold of our young professors, our young women professionals, because I do know, I know there are excellent groups out there, don't get me wrong, but I see so many women who fall through the cracks, whether it's because of that white wall they hit, or whether it's because the black wall that does the white wall's intention.
Oh, shit. Oh, speak.
You know, I always say that there's white supremacy is the issue, but the one who comes after you looks like you.
Yes.
And that's why it's so bad. That's a soul wound. That's one that can take you out. And you don't have the ability as a Black woman running a family who's a professional doing community advocacy. You can't always turn around and lick your wounds. But it's real good when somebody says, I got your back. When you feel that. One of my mentors, she used to lead from behind. And if something was going wrong, or she saw me wavering, whether I was speaking or whether I was doing something in the midst, she would come behind me and I would feel her hand in my back. That small touch let me know in that moment, we got you. You okay. You're the expert. You know, because that's what it does. It shakes your ground. It makes you feel like, well, and the word, I will give it to you like this. I remember when I used to work down the health department, and I was young, and they made me feel like I couldn't write. Now, I don't know, and I'm telling my age, but when I went to Morgan, there was a 56% failure rate in English, because the two things you had to do to get out of Morgan is you had to speak and you had to be able to write.
Absolutely.
So I wrote these reports, and they were like, so I stumbled one day over to the file cabinet, and the product of my work that they told me I couldn't write was a $1.5 million grant that they had taken and didn't tell me about. You see how that works?
Yeah.
That hurts.
Yeah.
And I learned it the hard way. Now I make my own money. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now when somebody tells me that I can't conjugate the verb to be, I said, well, that's nice. And I keep it moving because I had that power within me. But it came from the collective power of Black women around me that says no matter who you are and what moment you're in, you got this. You know what I'm saying? I just put that out to my sisters because that's the energy on this phone I feel. And I would love if we could take that to the next step. I always look at no matter where I speak or no matter where I am, I always look at that. What can we walk away with? What can we walk away with? And I would love, because I never want to see another young woman. You know, Tanya, you just touched my heart. I don't like when I see that because it makes you question who you are.
Yes.
And if you don't know, you're a queen. And
You are not soldiering alone.
But can I tell you the crazy thing that like really messed with my head is that I talked to some gentlemen who told me that the rumor is that I work for the company, and that just like, pardon my language, that just fucks my whole head up.
Don't be distracted by the madness.
Like,
don't be distracted by the.
I like
don't be distracted by the madness.
The company, because then it's checkmate. I checkmated you because now you don't understand where I'm coming from. Your expectation for me is here. I've already checkmated you. It's cool.
Absolutely. Don't be distracted by that. Don't be distracted by that.
Yeah.
When that president said when that president said he was no longer funding anything that has anything to do with with race, class theory and whatnot, I said touche. Clearly, we must be touching a soft spot. So don't be that's someone trying to play chess, and we have to learn to play chess and stop playing checkers.
Yeah.
Okay.
You,
So
you
true.
know who you are. You know what you're doing. Don't be distracted by it. If they see, then they weren't supposed to see you.
Yeah.
They see.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm asking is, does anyone have any suggestions for how I can be more effective at helping people understand that I am their ally and I am down for them, period. I literally say that. I literally say it to my clients. I'm like,
you cannot change people. You can't, we can, as a therapist, as a healer, as a community person, all of that. I can't say, here's how I want you to think, and here's how I want you to be. That too is their game. That's a Western way of thinking about the individual. And if we all, and my success is based on you thinking the way I want you to think. We can't be distracted by that. Just be who you are, and
Walk
your
in your own
energy
power.
will resonate. Your spirit will resonate. Those who are able to recognize the love will recognize. Those who weren't ready yet.
Yeah.
Right.
And not only that, you have to realize that people walk in with their own experiences. And so a lot of people have been harmed, right? So they're walking into your space and they automatically are thinking from a phobia, right?
yeah.
I've been harmed. And how do we get over fears? We have to have just as many positive experiences that counter what I've experienced before. You understand what I'm saying? So that's why I keep saying, don't give yourself the savior position. You are to just do what you do best, and it will help them. Being a servant leader, it's not even about you at all, right?
No.
It's about helping them, and in service, you are fulfilling your passion and purpose in life. So just focus on that. You know what I'm saying?
I'm also glad that they're not agreeing with you so easily.
Jackson, I'm gonna jump in for a minute.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Let me jump in for a minute because Tanya, I love this therapist session for you, and you need it.
Oh my God! Please don't make it. Please don't.
I love it. No, I truly love it because this is like a session that from all different aspects, and we're talking and trying to uplift you, and your emotion is what made us all jump, and that's amazing. Yeah. I love it. But I just want to also open the discussion. Asia hasn't talked yet. So I need to hear her voice, and we need to hear Kalila. Everybody need to get in this conversation. So we got y'all. Asia, let's hear what you got to say, and then Kalila, I want you to jump in. So I want everybody to have some time to give some therapy to Tanya. Let me
just say that my questions were not about therapy for me. They really were.
No, I'm just playing.
I want to help more people. Ultimately, that's what I do. Like, I am trying to help more people, and it's frustrating for me. Honestly, Black women aren't the problem. Black women come into my office and they're soldiers. Like we stand up, we put ourselves at risk all day, every day. The issue is Black men. Black men are afraid to believe that they can change.
No.
That's what I want to help with. Not therapy for me, but I do appreciate therapy.
So one statement, and then of course, Sister Queen, I'm going to definitely hand it over to Sister Asia. One thing I want to say, family, is I am happy to hear that the brothers are not easily trusting, because that too is part of it. There's discernment here. As we've already alluded to many times, just because we have that Black and brown face, we've done more damage to each other than others have. So I love the fact that they're coming in saying, I don't want to hear your words. You're going to prove to me by my being with you and watching your actions, I'll discern for myself if you are someone I want to trust. So don't tell me to trust you. Show me to trust you.
That's fair. That's a good point.
That's a good point.
Sister Asia, please. I'm going to stop right now.
You gotta, it's like double dutch. You gotta
listen. And I was never any good at double dutch. I was never good. I was like, these ladies with letters are very loquacious, but it's a great example for me because I am usually them. And I know that we all have a lot to say. Like, there's just so much. As you started off the conversation, there is so much to talk about.
It is.
Like, what just happened? That was a crazy ride, you know? And being Black women in America is a crazy ride. So I'll add in, I've been taking notes though. So, you know, I'm like, oh,
That's
I
what you
would
did.
say this if I could get a word in. So I'll just put them together,
Yeah,
just a
sure.
few little quotes. And also I want to say to Tanya, I'm a theater teacher. And in the theater, and we say, it is better to show than to tell. So you show people who you are.
Yes.
Right? And just like you said, some people are going to see white no matter how black the picture is. And you can't change them, right? But I can show you who I am. I'm going to show you, and they also say there's 3 ways to learn about a character: what they do, what they say, and what other people say about them. So you said what you said, you know, you're going to do what you do. And those of us who know your heart will say, not Tanya. Yeah. You know, we know who she is, right? Let us have your back, okay? But and then you do what you do. I also want to say that I want to talk about joy, because we started off saying, you know, let's talk about the inauguration, and y'all went in hardcore. You know, nah, we got to talk about tomorrow, January 21st, and I get it. However, you know, Tanya said, you know, let's take a breath. Not only let's take a breath, but let's celebrate. Yeah. We worked so hard over the last year to make these changes we just made. Yeah. You know I personally sat in this house with my family. We wrote postcards to voters in Pennsylvania. I sat here with my daughter. We made phone calls to voters in Georgia. And it's been tough, you know, so we need to take a moment and celebrate, because we have a tendency, those of us who are deep thinkers, to, okay, what's next? All right, cool, that was a win, but what's next? Yeah. No, take a minute.
I say.
In the joy, because joy is an act of resistance as well.
Yes, yes.
One of the words that I wrote down is maddening. That is a word I use often when people say, how do you feel? I say, it is maddening. And I love that word because it explains how crazy making it is and how angry it makes me when we encounter injustice. When those of us who live for justice encounter injustice, encounter racism, encounter sexism, it's maddening, the gaslighting of it all. Being Black, maddening. So the anecdote to me is joy. And I wrote down particularly spirituality and celebration. We talked about, you know, being powerful and having that inner power. So I started thinking about, you know, Beyonce's song, "You'll never take my power, my power, my power." And they say, they feel a way. Oh, wow. Like they're going to feel some kind of way when we're walking in our power. Yeah. You know? So what? Oh, wow. Like you just gotta laugh about it, you know? And the other quote I wrote down was, it's a song that I used to sing with one of my students. It's actually a gospel song, but we talked about, it says, I'm walking in authority, living life without apology. It ain't wrong, dear. I belong here, so you might as well get used to me. And so
Ashe, beautiful.
Ashe. Now we got that talent. I love this.
Okay, you got to send us. You have to send us that song. I'm gonna have to look this up again.
Yeah, we're gonna put that on the track, Sister Asia. I like that.
I certainly will. And I lost you guys on a Zoom, but I'm coming. Okay, there you are. So in the last note that I wrote down was, I asked my sister, maybe it was Wednesday, I said, so, you know, what are we gonna do about these supporters, you know, this cult, as I mentioned earlier? And I know you said organized crime. I think it was a combination. And let's say it was poorly organized crime at that. But poorly organized crime lords involved the cult, right? And I said, what are we gonna do about these cult members? And my sister said, that's not my ministry. I love that.
Yes, Ashe.
You know, some of this is what I call white people work, right?
Don't be distracted.
So each of us has an area. I know that education is my ministry. And I know that it works because I've seen the power of education, the power of loving them through teaching the critical thinking, the loving them. Like I said, that song, I used to sing it with one of my students. That student hated reading when I met her, you know, but I met her where she was. And once, I don't know, the song just came to me and I started singing. She's like, oh, that's my jam. And so that became our thing. Next, this same student called me over Christmas break to tell me she was working on her book report. So there's power in saying, you know, that's who you thought you were. You thought you didn't like food, you know, but you can't, there's, knowledge is power.
Yes.
That's my ministry, but I can't do everything because it's maddening. So I have to balance all of this brilliance and all of this heaviness with some joy.
Yes. Love it. KamaLa.
Yeah, so you
Awesome.
know, I Tanya, let me say this. I completely agree. That's what I would have offered as well, that be yourself, and you know, somebody's gonna call you the ops at some point in your life. That means that you're shaking the right tables. There's nothing you can do to convince those brothers to believe you other than be believable. And the way I move through the world, you know, people are like, but your brand is this and your brand is that. I'm like, you know, brand is perception. If you perceive me that way, that's dope. But I'm not moving to build a brand. I'm moving to build liberation. And the challenge is lots of people say social justice-y words and have the lexicon sound like they're wokety woke. And they don't mean it. They don't do it. It is very surface level, and they're unwilling to risk anything. Like Sister Lenise said, you know, I don't code switch, and I never have. I have my natural hair under this wrap. My hair has been natural since 1998. And people, you know, young women, young people will say, you know, you're so real. How have you made success? And how have you been able to move through the world with your hair like that? And I had long locks for 15 years. And what I say to them is, I know what I'm talking about. So it's very hard for people to turn me away. I've done the work. I do my due diligence. I do my research. And you may think I just showed up to something that you invited me to yesterday, but I knew I was going to be there. So, you know, when I sat at the table and I started to speak, it's very hard to be like, she's not professional, because while I may be talking like this, every word coming out of my mouth is legit. It is researched. It is thorough. And it comes from a place of true integrity, not trying to put on or climb or be ambitious. And so, you know, that's how I move. You know, when I was running a school, people will always be like, why do those cut up boys love you so much? And I'm like, because they're regular, I'm regular, I'm talking to them like,
why don't you love them?
I mean, I love them the moment I meet them.
No, I mean the ones asking you that question.
Yeah, well, yeah. For me, it's like, you don't have to earn my love. You just cuss your teacher out, I'm gonna bust you in the mouth. Stop playing, Miss Harris, stop playing. No, I'm not playing, I'm gonna bust you in the mouth. But that's what auntie or grandma would say.
Absolutely.
Right? And they are clear when I'm saying I'm gonna bust you in the mouth, that I'm not threatening them with violence, that I'm like, I love you, and I'm not tolerating what that performance you do for other people to show your pain, because you're better than that, and we're gonna do this together. And those are the boys that they will flock to me, but really I flock to them like, what you doing? You're dope. Like, let's do that. Okay, you could talk to me about Boosie versus Jay-Z, but I'm not with you. And they're like, what? You know what? Then it's the other clique, like, okay, we're gonna talk about Degrassi Junior High versus the new Degrassi. And they're like, what? Miss Harris, you know, like, I'm gonna be regular, you gonna be regular. I don't need to show up with my letters. But if you challenge me, my letters will meet you at the door. So that's how I move. And when
that is so right.
You don't trust, you know, they have reason not to trust. And I don't think it's on you to move differently. I think it's on you to inspect internally why their mistrust hurts you in the way that it does. Right. Is it self-centered, or is it, and Lenise said something about positioning yourself as savior. Sometimes when we think we're there to fix, we are centering ourselves as opposed to centering the need, and it's not intentional, and it's not meant to harm, but it does circle around you instead of around the need that they have. The need they have is to have someone they can rely on that's not going to do them dirty. And it's been proven time and time again that somebody's going to do them dirty. So that's what made it easy for someone to plant a seed that you work for the company, because they know they experience people undermining them and undercutting them. And, you know, also the concept of, you know, what I said about November 4th or January 21st. The reason why I look at November 4th or look at January 21st is not because I'm not celebrating or embracing the moment. It is because I do the work 365 days a year.
That's right.
And I support people wanting to celebrate and talk about representation mattering and all of that other good stuff. I agree with that. But I'm not celebrating things that are not
realize
they're not the point of celebration for me.
Right.
Because we needed Donald Trump to shake up people who were really.
That's right. I agree.
That's true.
Really
That's so
comfortable
true.
with how things were going. It preserved their power in a white supremacist system. It preserved their ability to be gatekeepers.
Yep.
So don't get it twisted. There are things, okay. So we got Biden and Harris. Now what? What's the difference for the
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
around me every day? So it's not that I don't breathe and celebrate, is that I'm breathing 365 days. I understand I'm in a marathon, and election day and inauguration day are not my points of celebration.
Absolutely.
My celebration is
Speak.
that policy that moves, and it's like,
Speak.
y'all told us we wasn't going to get it, and look at what we got. Or that progressive candidate that's voted through, and people are like, where'd they come from? From the streets. We made that happen. From those kids that are at Tia's bookshop, Urban Reads, and they're like, this sister gave me a job when everybody else thought I'd be selling drugs.
Yes.
And now I am at Morehouse, or now I own my own business. I didn't go to college. I learned from her about entrepreneurship, and
That's
my
right.
business is thriving. I'm now opening my third or fourth one. That's where I celebrate, and it will always be where I celebrate. I think that people sometimes rest on the symbolism and don't do the work of the actual impact. And I'm not suggesting that's what was being said to me. I wanted to give some context to it's not that I'm not blowing off the 3rd or the 20th. What I do is my vision expands across a very long time. Because I know the ancestors have been working a very long time.
They prepared us for this moment. People say 2020 is a crazy year. It was a shit show. In many ways, yes, but we needed 2020. Mm-hmm. We needed 2020 to clear some things out.
Yes.
We were not paying attention to, and we would not acknowledge. Bunch of educators on this call. How many of you, when you talk about celebration, in this somber moment, the joy I have felt that people who had no clue what was being held from our children, before schools closed in March 2020. Yep. No clue what was being held from our children, who say things like, well, let's get them the iPads and the Chromebooks, and it's like, what iPad and what Chromebook?
Right.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Put on to what Wi-Fi?
Yes, exactly.
You're
right.
Go across town. You had no idea, even your middle class kid, what they didn't have access to. So for me, I just move in a spirit of being unbothered, because I'm clear whose I am.
That's right.
I don't believe anybody in the government is going to do what someone mentioned something, I think it might have been you, Stacy, was talking about how something didn't move until it benefited for profit.
Right.
People. That's called interest convergence.
That's right.
Yeah.
And interest convergence, I'm not doing anything to help you unless it helps me too.
Right.
So I don't assess value and quality based on white heteronormative standards. My plan is to figure out how to own the land.
That's right.
I know how to till the soil, make sure my children knows how to till the soil, make sure it's acreage, because there's nothing else in this country you can have but land ownership to, if you will, create the world that you want.
That's right.
Yes.
Ultimately, yesterday was, listen, I'm an AKA. I had a frame on my little post, just like the rest of them. So I don't deny how monumental the occasion was. But what I don't do is, what's the word? Glamorize.
Correct.
Or you know, fantasize about what things are when they aren't, because that's where people come into the whole, you know, we're going to go back to the country that we were. I hope the hell not. We're not. And we're gonna, you know, embrace the better angels among us and focus on the people what people? Where they at? Last I checked. Where they at? Last I checked, you can walk out on the street right now and find some injustice. So
thank you. We are not done.
We live in a daily insurrection.
Oh.
So for me, you know, people used to joke with me like, why are you always talking about the gun range and Second Amendment? I'm like, you wait for the moment where you need to come to the range with me. And I'm
well, so true.
Now everybody's like, I want to get a gun, blah, 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 blah. And then then they couldn't afford because they don't want to learn how to use a gun. That's a whole nother thing. But, you know, I'm going to use the laws of this country for my benefit. But also, as Tanya said, the laws weren't written for us. So they'll be reinterpreted over and over and over every time you try to use them. So I try not to live in the scope of a framework that was created to keep me oppressed. And that's what the Electoral College is. That's what the US government is. It was not created to give me life. Give me liberty or give me death was for people to be able to enslave my ancestors at their own will. It was to have wives as possession, just like livestock. So, you know, I just come from a different frame, and I don't want to leave it as, oh, election, no big deal, you know, inauguration, no big deal. Complete big deals. I understand why they're integral. I work in policy every day, but for the virus, I go to work in DC every day.
But we can't be distracted.
But I'm not going to.
Because wasn't it, because again, it's who's telling the story. You have to be careful, because when Obama was in office, somebody claimed that we were post-racial.
Right.
Remember that?
I worked for President Obama, and let me tell you, not only were we post-racial, but you had a lot of folk who looked like us who were in the administration or adjacent to the administration who held, most important, their adjacency or position in the
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I call these the BC moments. You got that same person who said that our people came across on those boats with, you know, dreams and hopes. I call it the BC syndrome, right? But this is how Ben Carson's are made. You have to be very careful about who we are and what we're doing here, okay?
And the things that we hold up as Black excellence. Tia is Black excellence to me.
Yes.
Every day, all day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Thank you.
She could have sat in her circumstance. She could have let jail harden her, but instead she pulled on, the ancestors were in her, like, this is you, we more from you. You are gonna do more. And so when I celebrate, you know, I ain't gonna celebrate somebody with 1 million Twitter followers or 50,000 Twitter followers who uses wokey woke language. I'm not celebrating electing someone who was not my candidate, because I know they, you know, their comfort place is in moderation. Moderation. My people don't need moderation. So I'm not going to pretend all of a sudden I'm on a bandwagon. I want progress. And I want my sword, and she's done something nobody has ever done before her. And
we don't stop.
And I'm going. I want to know who says something that don't have a sword, that is the first Black woman vice president. Besides that, She ain't no different from anybody else. I tell people all the time, the Black middle class can be the bane of my existence because we feel like we got someone.
Speak.
Yeah.
Speak.
Like,
But
Speak.
that's the difference. That's the difference between. That's the difference between buying into like the white supremacist hierarchy and paradigm and creating a new reality. Like, and
let me tell you something.
That's called psychological liberation.
You may have seen this before, but every year back to school, because I don't have many white friends, I got Black educators like, these people need to make sure their kids have pens and paper and not no Jordans. And I go off. I say, our kids gotta perform poverty for you to treat them with respect.
Well,
you don't know that grandma
Yeah.
those sneakers. You didn't know that auntie didn't say, I want you to feel good about yourself this year. I know people teased you last year.
We gotta stop
preaching
tearing each
over
other
here.
down.
Talk about it.
Hold us accountable. If you don't have nothing good to say, don't say nothing at all.
I love it.
In Baltimore in Detroit was filled by Black educators. Let's be clear. So we need to be able to not only name the thing, as you said, Dr. Jackson, not only name the thing, but what is the goal of the naming of it? Are we actually doing the digging to get ourselves to a place where we are grounded, right? Not that we are constantly fly by night, like seeds, seeds germinate over here, over there. I was talking to my brother Changa Anyango, and we were talking about how people say, Black home ownership, but they're not willing to say the 5 of us are about to buy this block, right? Because if I live over there in Owens Mills, and I live over there in Reservoir Hill, and you live over there in Otterbein, and you live Federal Hill, that's not Black wealth and home ownership. Black wealth and home ownership, when I grew up was, I moved here from Jamaica with no money. We all gonna pile into this house with 20 of us. When another house opens up, we gonna put cash on the next.
Yes.
When the house opens up on this street, we gonna put cash and
mobilize our dollars.
Mobilize our dollars, but we understand we're not mobilizing those dollars to go to somebody else's.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
To fertilize our grass.
Absolutely.
Like, I want to live on the street with my auntie, my neighbor, the person who lived down the road when I grew up.
Right.
Her granddaughter is now a lawyer. Her nephew.
What neighborhood do you take over?
Any neighborhood.
I don't care. I'm down.
Any neighborhood.
I mean, just think. Okay, she's on to something. What if we even said we're going to pool our dollars together and place our and be very strategic about in each city and state how we're going to take over a certain section and over time watch it turn into its Black wealth for us.
Yeah.
I love this. My next
that's kind of like what we talked about with the urban again, going back to the work being done with the ministers in the CDC. 3 major communities, and they're the hardest hit communities: Southwest, Central, which is Penn North, and Park Heights. And it's like commandeering 3 communities that are in need, and doing exactly what you're saying. And the question is always for me, as things unfold, how will people get behind it? Now
how do we take back Chocolate City?
Yeah, right. That's it. Look, that's the goal behind it all right there. So when you sit there and you look at the thing,
there.
But the potential of it becoming a chocolate city, but you almost got to sneak it on people. But
you do, because the enterprise will come in and be like, "Oh, y'all
That's true.
Right.
We drive the prices up. Yep.
That's exactly what's happening. And so you sit there, and one of the things that I'm really excited for, but that opened my eyes, because I've been moved from the realm of grants, because I believe that the borrower is beholden to the lender, and the grant world can be insidious to just picking off communities of colors and those in need of certain support. So I deal more with the corporate world and folk who will just write the check. But and my eyes were open, because in dealing with Black philanthropists, people who are doing hedge funds, you see how they too are limited. And these people are dealing with funds, millions, if not billions. But you see the hampering in the room, and then the enterprise takes off. Black enterprise for real. Tulsa comes to fruition, or has the potential to come to fruition and the vultures come. You know, without my prayer is for this movement, this economic movement, is.
You muted yourself.
Finish your prayer, please, Stacey. Finish your prayer.
With the development plan called "And the Church Shall Lead," because we looked at the institutions that were hard and fast, not just churches, but mosques, community development, community centers, whatever was, you know, applicable to that particular community. But I just really hope, my prayer is that, again, looking at the economy of a thing, how all systems, whether it's Black psychologists, social workers, physicians, can come together and support this. Because at the end of the day, I'm all to say it. I don't show up and worry about what you're thinking of me. I show up and I am me. Now, any other thing that you can't get, that's on you. You know, but there's this economy of a thing that we must master. And it has to be across the board, not just in the raising of the money, but in our intellect and the way that we think. I don't even think about what a white person thinks about me anymore when I walk in the room. I understand the impact of what a white person thinks about me. But I could care less. My grandmother used to say, and I'm going to leave it alone. My grandmother used to say a long time ago to me, she said, you can sit in any place you want in the room. They have the issue, not you. Your goal is to do what you came here to do and go. So that's why I'm
love it, love it, love it. Listen, let me say something. You know, it's double Dutch in here. You gotta jump in. But next month we're gonna have a Zoom on Baltimore's the real estate in this market, and how as Black people we have to look at this land and pick it up. And we got to understand, during the Depression, at the end of the Depression, that is the most land that Black folks picked up, because white people lost so much land.
Yeah.
So we're now in a pandemic where people will lose, and are we ready to pick up?
Right.
And Baltimore is in a place where there's a lot of gentrification about to happen. All you see every day, they're digging in the streets, they're putting infrastructure in. We got to be we got to be mindful of what's going on in Baltimore and jump on it. We talk about DC as the chocolate city. Baltimore is almost 70% Black, and it will be 40% white. I mean, 40% Black if we don't watch it. We gotta look at these neighborhoods. We gotta invest, and we should do it together, where we now build our wealth together. Because when you go in the neighborhood and you change everything, you make the comps. You make the financial stability of that neighborhood. So that's something we're going to talk about in Black History Month and bring to the people.
One thing I want to add to that is we have to step into Black philanthropy, step into Black dollars.
That's right.
I'll give an example. In the midst of all of this, I'm not going to name it. You have the Association of Black Psychologists sitting here, and yet people are funding other folk to provide therapy in our communities.
Crazy.
Right?
That's the issue.
So so it's more than raising, it's how do we, again, direct those dollars and hold our folk accountable who are sitting where they are because of us showing up to all the games, because of us watching and endorsing the TV, buying the clothes, buying the music. Hold them accountable to come and have critical conversations in this community, not on TV with this, that, and other folk, but with everyday folk here who are doing the grassroots work and living in it. Sit side by side with your village and put your dollars here.
Exactly. That's a lot of what we have. We have to funnel money, and we have to make Black spaces. They're not going to make it for us. We have to make them. So another thing, we're at 8 o'clock, and this is how this things that we just talked. But I want to say something about what happened on January 6th. Because I just wanted to talk about it quickly. I don't believe it was an insurrection. I believe, as I said before, that it was whites not being able to not understanding that they have to share this country. That's number one. Number two, they had a problem with the demographics of this country is changing. And on top of that, the voting bloc is changing in this country. And so the stronghold that white people have had on the institutions of their own government is receding. And I think that was what we saw. We didn't see insurrection because you don't need zip ties and Confederate flags and all of that because you're angry about what happened to Donald Trump. You're angry about other people being present, and you now have to fight for the same space. So what do you ladies think about that?
And it distracted us from Georgia. It distracted us from what was accomplished in Georgia.
Okay.
Again, because we get preoccupied talking about them.
Go ahead, Asia.
I just said Bree Newsome called it joy stealing. I love that she posted on Twitter and said it's the joy stealing for me. You know, that again, we had just had this big victory in Georgia, flipped the Senate, which people said was damn near impossible. And then here y'all come with shenanigans at the Capitol. Joy stealing. Now everybody's talking about you and your brethren. And again, I think it was a combination of things. You know, I think there was some organized crime, and we should be grateful that it was poorly organized because it could have gone much differently. But they rely on the cult to carry out the mission.
Yeah.
And if you look at the interviews with these individual cult members, a lot of them are very slow. I mean, very slow.
But I think that's the interviews that they put forth, because the ones with the Air Force veterans,
the ones who had a little bit of organization, yeah,
you never hear from them. They always look for what they call the poor white to make it seem as if these people were uneducated and unaffiliated. But they never interviewed the lieutenant colonel that was there or the why don't they interview those? That is media's mistake. That is filling our head that these are poor people who are angry. These are all people. These are your supervisor. These are your manager. These are the lawyers you work with. These are the pastors that are over churches. These are right. America who are white, who are afraid of brown people. That's it. It's not about me, Lanice. Let's go.
I was gonna say, I always try to think not emotionally, but just logically about a couple things. Now, I don't think singularly, right? And so like what Asia said, I feel like it's quite a few things. We have to admit that our country was built on the social stratification of people. Everybody was impacted by that. Not just the oppressed people, but the people who are lifted up. So if you are brought up to believe that you have powers that you really don't have, right? Or that you have an intellect that you've gotten where you've gotten as a result of your own, that's why they always say, pull up your bootstraps. You didn't even need bootstraps. Like, come on. So, but if you build people that way, they actually really believe that. So we got to talk about that too, right?
That's true.
The other part is social media. I did not get to watch the documentary that they talk about, but everything that we do is tracked. How we think is tracked. The fact that Siri now says, 1 sec, is because of my pattern of speech, because I have interacted with her enough. So if social media understands how we're thinking, they can also shape how we think. And so for the people who were there, they had a common belief somewhere. And things are marketed to them. The ads, all those messages were marketed to them to shape their common thoughts. And then somebody was saying the right thing. You think Donald Trump didn't have he's a marketing, I won't say genius because I don't, whatever. But understand that there is messaging. When you can tap into someone's deep cultural values, you control them.
Yeah.
You control their emotions, right? And so when your emotions are controlled, your amygdala is controlled, so your prefrontal cortex, the way in which you normally make good decisions, is turned off.
Yes.
And that's why I said, anytime something happens, I take a step back, I go meditate, I get my mind right first, and then I think like a chess player. And I say, well, what was the economic benefit of this? Because America is about money, because they're about power. So how did certain people in America benefit from this, right? When you think of Steve Bannon, Trump just pardoned Bannon. Why was Bannon in trouble? Because he duped Trump supporters into giving him $25 million that lined his pockets. So if Trump was for his supporters, why would he then pardon someone? So I always follow the money and I follow the ideology. What is the system? So how is the system trying to program them? And so I think that it was a couple different things. And I think, so for the politicians, in that building that were about to be harmed, for them to support and know what was going on, speaks volumes, y'all.
It does.
These people are smart. Those are, come on now.
They're not
It's
stupid.
way beyond.
Mhm.
Look, let's just be clear about a couple of things. One, when you have been privileged and have been propped up by an institution like white supremacy, equality feels like unfairness to you.
There
And
you
that
go.
is why it is very
That's
easy.
good.
Donald Trump is not a genius. And I appreciate that you clarified that you were not saying that. Appealing to white grievance is simple.
Yes.
You just have to hate Black and brown people. If
That's
if everything you do, look, everybody, when you look at his pages and interns in the White House, there wasn't a Black or brown face among them. And you look at that and you compare it to when Obama was in office and there were Black and brown people everywhere. It looked like America. So that's just, that is easy. And it is, and the psychology of it is very simple. When you've been advantaged for 400 years, fairness feels unfair to you. And that's what we're dealing with right now. But don't sleep on it. I am someone who, like, every single thing that I have said about Donald Trump has come to pass. And I don't take any joy in that. It makes me sick, actually, to my stomach, because I know that if we come to a quasi-civil war or a real civil war, that Black and brown people are going to be disproportionately affected, like we are with everything else that happens in America. And I don't mean to sound hyperbolic or histrionic or whatever, but I'm afraid, because the fact is Donald Trump isn't that smart. He is an egotist and he is an authoritarian, but he's
a narcissist.
Sloppy authoritarian, and he exposed all the fault lines in our system. The fact that a group of, like, miscreants and whatever, that they were able to go and gain access to the Capitol, that they came as close as they did to taking Nancy Pelosi, like, that should terrify us. That should terrify us. And I am very afraid of what's going to happen. I'm very afraid of what's going to happen. And I know not everyone agrees with this, but I think every person of color should learn how to use firearms. They should absolutely exercise their Second Amendment rights to arm themselves, to protect their home. Honestly, obviously, if the military turns against us, we can't fight the military, but we can fight some crazy white people from Harford County. If it comes to that shit. And we might need to be prepared for that.
We need to be. All right.
If you come up in here, you're gonna get fucked up.
Ooh, you better know it.
I want to hear what Dr. Harris has to say, because she's just over there and she's gesturing.
You better know it.
Go ahead.
Listen, I firmly believe that we should be able to protect our homes. And I find it interesting, the gun laws actually changed when the Black Panther Party armed itself to protect this community.
Yeah.
So, you can't say, we're not in New Zealand. Nobody's buying everybody's gun back. And all of the laws that I see being proposed right now are really in opposition to law-abiding citizens. They're not going to do anything as it relates to people who will build a gun or get guns by hook or crook. So, I think it's important. What I started saying earlier, people underestimate the idea you just buy a gun and you're going to be safe. It doesn't work that way. You have to train, you have to build your muscle memory, because if an emergency happens, you fumbling around with this thing in your house that you've never used before, you're somewhat afraid of yourself, don't understand how to respect the tool so that it doesn't harm you or your family, it's useless, it's a paperweight. So I do believe that people should, even if they don't possess them in their homes, understand and have handled a firearm previously. I honestly don't have firearms to protect myself against people who look like you and I. I have firearms because I believe there could be, let me not put into the universe, there could be a time where, as we so closely came to it in the past couple of years, if you even think about the Boston Marathon bombing, where Boston was locked down and no one was allowed to leave their homes. People think martial law is a joke. They throw the word around here and then martial law, martial law, martial law. I'm like, Thurgood Marshall, what are you talking about? But people underestimate how easy and quickly we can move to a situation where people's civil liberties are restricted. And I want to be able to feed myself if I can kill something. And I want to be able to, Mad Max Beyond the Thunderdome, it's 30 years anniversary. If I have to move around with my family and there are pitfalls along the way, I want a fighting chance to be able to protect myself and my children. My children know how to use firearms as well.
Very well.
Very well.
That's right. Train them young.
Listen, I don't want them to be afraid of the tools. I want them to be clear what it can do so they don't play with it and they don't allow anyone else to play with it who enters our home. And so you could do whatever you want with a safe. I found ways to get in my parents' stuff all the time. So my older two children, they have their biometrics are on the safe. They can open the safe themselves because you just don't know. And it is nonsensical when other folk talk about Second Amendment. It's like, you're not going to take my guns. And then as soon as Black folk talk about arming themselves, it's like, well, we need to restrict these gun laws to make sure, people don't have ready access to it and that the mentally ill don't like, but first of all, that's very ableist, number one. Number two, why is it that when I want guns, you want to put some restrictions but when y'all want a whole arsenal in your basement, no restrictions.
Right.
Really?
And people have been stockpiling weapons and ammo since Obama was elected. Since President Obama was elected.
They have been, but I will say to all of you, the price of ammo right now,
high.
It's beyond high.
It's high.
It is. If you are now entering the space of using firearms, you don't even have perspective that you are paying double and sometimes triple.
Right.
I bought some bullets and they were, I could not believe, because I don't own a gun and I went to gun training. I was like, what, can I get an itemized receipt?
Very expensive.
Even to go to the gun range, it cost like $150 just to practice.
From 2019, it has tripled. And I will also say to you, because I've done this on a show that I did before, Black gun ownership has increased by 60%. The people buying the weapons are us.
Yeah.
So, I've seen some intel about the companies reducing their production and the government pushing them to reduce production. That's all dollars and cents. Make sure you protect yourselves. Make sure you know how to handle a firearm if it's in your home. But I think everybody should, at a minimum, know how to use one to the extent that you don't know when an emergency may occur. You could be at the dollar store and a police officer, I was watching one YouTube video, loses their gun in a tussle. You can't be like, I'm afraid. No.
Right. Right.
So, we don't live in places where the only people with weapons are law enforcement. In some places around the globe, no one has firearms unless there's a special situation that requires SWAT. Even the regular police don't have firearms. That's not the United States of America. And we have to live in the country that we live in, not the one that we want to live in. Because who knows when that one's coming around.
Love it.
Told you she had something to say.
I've just gone through so many changes of people like, you're a conspiracy theorist. I'm like, it's a conspiracy to you because you can't envision this happening.
Right.
I don't think it's going to be a shootout every day, but I am clear what country we live in. Are you clear what country we live in? That's why I talk about the whole expanse of time.
Yeah.
I know what country I live in.
Me too.
And so,
you better get a gun. That's all I got to say. Get some training.
Out here on
training.
Your family.
Yeah,
That's
you
what you better
on
do.
North Avenue shooting people, you are confused because that's not how life works. But if somebody kicks in your door,
what you gonna do?
There was a gallows at the Capitol. There was a noose.
It was
right.
They
set up a gallows. They were ready.
Did not find scrap. They bought that.
And panic buttons were ripped out.
I saw that.
I built the gallows. Yeah.
The gallows was not built with scrap found on the ground.
They brought it.
Timber.
Yep.
to build a full stand.
They built it there. Exactly.
Putting a rope over it.
Yeah.
That's what they did. They built it there.
In front of the Capitol building, which if I go in front of the Capitol building right now, a sniper will take me out for trying to hurt.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And this is why when Tanya says she's afraid, but you can't be afraid of people who were invited to do that. See, it'd be a difference if it was something that they did and they got somewhere they weren't supposed to go. This was invitation only.
Right.
They were allowed to do that because anybody else trying to get near the Capitol, they wouldn't make it to do the
Well,
first.
what makes you,
It's
think
called policing the
makes you
friendlies.
think they're not going to be invited to do it here? I mean, that's my
No, I'm
concern.
saying,
No, that's always been the case, Tanya. That's always been real. That's always been real. That's nothing new.
how Black people live.
But this was policing this was policing friendlies. That's what that was.
Yes.
We
live
like they
in
had
that.
tours in the Capitol when the Capitol is restricted to only the people who work there.
Right. And as this is March, they closed it to the public.
They told them we were coming and they went in. That's why whoever was inside invited them in.
Yes, 20%.
I think this kind of goes back to what
have been in the military or are active military. 20%. 7% of the U.S. population is active or has been in the military. 20% of the people being investigated through the Capitol riot.
That's disproportionate. Oh my goodness.
Exactly. And this is where like rhetoric really does matter, because we have seen like there has been a marked increase in white supremacist views and attitudes in the military and in law enforcement in the last 5 years.
They've always been there. This is called
It's always been there, but it's worse.
But hold on, what's worse is this is psychic terrorism.
Yes.
The more they push that message out there, the more it's intended to raise fear in us.
Yep.
The realities are we've been surviving in a state of seen and unseen pandemics since 1619. I'm not dispelling the realities of it. I'm not trying to make it less than what it is. What I'm trying to do is to balance it. If we talk about the increase in that mess, then we need to talk about our increase in readiness to deal with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
To not do that, then we are leaving ourselves psychologically and spiritually vulnerable to it.
Absolutely.
Agreed. We should all have guns and be prepared to defend ourselves, but we should not discount the significance of the fact there has been a significant increase in white supremacist beliefs and behavior.
And I respectfully,
organized white.
I challenge that. There's no increase.
I don't think it's
increase.
It's
not increase. It's just not hiding it anymore.
I don't think it's an increase.
It's not increase. They're not hiding it anymore. They're no longer putting on their golf cart shirt. They're no longer wearing. They're no longer on the golf course. They're no longer in the. This is real. They have not.
They think they can take over the country.
They already have the country.
That sounds good.
They have the country.
We've always been a white supremacist country, but now they think that they can actually take over the country. They can have a coup. They can return black and brown people to the state. That is different. It's not what it was 5 years ago. That was not the status quo 5 years ago. That is different.
I disagree.
Yeah, I have to disagree.
Because it may very well come to the fact that we have white people from the suburbs coming, maybe not where I live, but white people in the suburbs thinking that they can actually take over this country. They're reading fictional novels about a utopian society where white men take the country over and rule again. This, like, we can't sleep on this. And maybe it never happens, but we should prepare for the possibility that it's going to happen.
But tell you, can I say this? I don't think that this is something new. I think what we see, because every system that we see that we're seeing, like slave patrols became police. These are people who were white supremacists who became police.
You know, wait, you know what's different?
Hey, let me finish. So what you see is now they're telling you that there's more and the percentages are higher. These are the same people in the same institutions that's been in place for the entirety of Black life. What we have to do is actually build our own ammunition to these systems.
That's it.
There are always going to be a high amount of white people who think they can come in and control us. The process is, what are we going to do? Because this ain't nothing new. When my mother was young, the same thing. When I'm here, it's the same thing. These white folks have always been present, and these systems have always been white supremacy. It's never been different.
We're in agreement. We're in agreement. The difference is this. The difference is the percentage. They are nearing a critical mass. That's the difference. The difference is that 6 years ago, it was disfavored. It was unpopular. It was discouraged to have these beliefs. And for 5 years, it's been encouraged and generalized and supported and it's become mainstream. That's the problem. And that's dangerous. Rhetoric is dangerous.
It's always been mainstream. I really think.
Yeah, I think it is always.
You know what? Tell that. I'm sorry, but when you look at the people that have been victimized by hate crimes, the people who have been burned, the people who have been attacked because of Donald Trump being in office, there is a difference. There's a difference between,
No, I think it's more
there's a difference between 500 hate crimes and 2,500 hate crimes. That is a difference, and that's the
difference in them being publicized. That's not the difference.
It's not a difference.
They were happening. They've always been there. It's just now the media and whomever is bringing them to light. And I think that's what this being said is that it has always been there. This is not new. It's just that now you see the 500. But
no, please. There are facts. There are knowable, objective facts.
Numbers.
Let me just say that. Who have been victimized, and then
I'm not discounting anything that you say, Tanya. But what I am saying is that this is nothing new, and these things are being exposed. But again, I'll go back to my point. It looks like an increase. You say 500 more, and I'm saying it's 2,500 to 1,500 to 2,500. You still haven't seen.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. We're in agreement.
We're seeing it more. People have cell phones. They have different ways.
Let me give you an example. I have never in my life, before Donald Trump was elected, had random white people I've never met call me nigga, sand nigga, taco nigga.
I have.
Whatever. All that shit.
I have.
And I you know what? I'm sorry for that. But what I'm telling you is that is
I have.
There's a normalization.
I don't think
of bigotry.
You know what? Can I counter that just for a second? So I don't know if you've noticed, but since Donald Trump has had the megaphone taken away from him, it has the narrative that he was controlling from the powerful office of the president and on Twitter, and it was just recycled in the news. I hadn't seen as much. I look at the news, NPR, I listen to NPR a lot. And I just thought about how much, even though they tried to not talk about it a lot, just how much it even seeped into the news, how much and how I carried that. Now I just don't feel that now that he is not in charge, that I believe that they're gonna be on the fringes again. What he did was he stated feel okay to be that way. So I do agree that he normalized it, but I don't think that that's going to be able to continue the same way. However, I do believe that it has always been happening. I think it was just normalized, because I have even engaged in conversations in the work that I do where people were like, this neoliberal, and they were just people. I was like, are you actually saying this out of your mouth right now in front of other people? You have no shame or no guilt. So I think that they were given a microphone or given an idea that they could then repeat. I just don't think that that's going to be the popular thing anymore.
Well,
it's not for the media. The media made it a monster, not Trump.
That's what I'm saying.
The media
I
made
agree.
it a monster.
Thank you.
You know, and again, I go back to it gave life. He emboldened them by the words that he said, but it just gave life to it, and now the media is turning the mic off. But it's still there.
It's still there.
No, I agree.
Yeah. And I think we say it's normalized. It is normalized. But in the greater scheme, it's there. Donald Trump cannot incite something that doesn't have a presence.
Right.
So the presence was there. And he did not make it 500%. What he did was made make the media, because he's a president. If he wasn't the president, you wouldn't see it.
Exactly.
The same stuff was going on.
No, I don't agree.
You said in these 5 years, people have called me black, niggas, saying all of that stuff you said 7 years ago, 12 years ago. I grew up in South Carolina. So I've seen this type of behavior over and over and over again. And to say that because we see it more, because one man.
Stop seeing it more. It's happening more. Please stop saying that. It's not just seeing it more. It's happening more.
You can have your opinion and I can have mine.
Yeah.
No, there are facts. Queen, there are
That's
facts.
not factual to me.
You can.
That cannot be.
There are numbers in the
Department of Justice, they can tell you there were 18 million
Tanya,
claims.
please.
Those are facts.
Listen to somebody else.
Stop pretending that opinions are evil or equal. They're not. There are
Give us a
facts.
moment,
That's not
please,
true.
Tanya. Breathe.
That's not fact.
It's not true. There are facts.
His opinion.
Family, let's breathe for a minute. Let's breathe for a minute.
Because I've lived a brown life in America, and I've had all of these things happen to me before Donald Trump ever even thought
All of this is real, family. All of this is real.
Brown life in America.
Tanya,
and
please.
More people
Tanya,
have been
please,
assaulted
please.
now in the last 4 years than the prior 4 years. That's a fact.
Tanya, please, let's get back to
That's
our
numbers.
center. Something's changing in our energy here, family.
That's
Let's
true.
take a moment and check this, okay?
I get it.
Because what I worry about is where we are in our energy right now is, again, we're doing someone else's work. Let's stop debating one another and saying who's wrong and who's right.
That's true.
If it's increased or not, if it's more visible or not, the realities are the shit is real.
Yeah.
There you
Let's
go.
not get distracted by that. Let's stay centered again on us being ready to hold each other up and be prepared to continue to do what we do. I just want to name our energy is shifting, sisters.
I agree.
It's not the same, though. There are real people.
Tanya, we agree. Tanya, I'm agreeing with you. Please let that go for just
No,
right
I
now.
agree with you, but what I'm saying to you is let's not forget that there are real
We're
people.
not forgetting it, Tanya. What I'm asking here is I'm asking you to take a breath so we can join back together in our centrality of our mission and not get lost in what could look like a disagreement between us. We are not,
that we not allow our cynicism and our acknowledgement of the fact that we have always been a white supremacist.
Tanya, I want to try one more time to ask if I can help move us forward in the spirit of our ancestors. We are not challenging your truth.
We're not.
It's not my truth.
It is real. I'm trying to validate and join with you in this. What I'm trying to say here is that's why I use these words. It appears like we are in a debate. We should not be in a debate. If the numbers have changed or not changed, if it's more visible or not, that is not the issue. The issue is that it's real, and we have to be prepared to deal with it no matter how it shows up.
That's true.
That's it.
I agree.
So let's not lose each other in the midst of this because it's changing our energy. And that's the devil's work. This is us doing their work again. They want us to get to look like we are in debate with one another. They're trying to fracture us. And I want to
agree with you.
back here.
But what I'm saying to you is that as a lawyer who represents victims of discrimination, that there has been an uptick. This is a fact.
We're not denying. I said yes to that. I said yes to that. Yes.
Brown people. And
yes,
people
Tanya. Yes.
There has been an
yes, Tanya.
and
yes.
more violent discrimination. People have been threatened. People have been threatened with being burned and set on fire. People have had their cars tampered with to kill them. That has happened under Donald Trump. That's what I'm saying. And it's not just the same old, same old. And I do hope that the change in the rhetoric under Joe Biden will affect a change in our culture. But I'm not relying on that. And I am encouraging Black and brown people to arm themselves because I am fearful of what white people emboldened by an authoritarian dictator may do in the coming years. That's all I'm saying. And I don't disagree, Queen, I don't disagree with you when you say it's always been there. I agree with you. And I also acknowledge like the privilege that I have from like my color privilege in not having had this experience until Donald Trump. I acknowledge that. But I don't give a shit about me. I'm caring about and worrying about the people that have been burned, threatened, hurt, fired because of the emboldening of discriminatory animus in the last 5 years.
I think also
nobody is arguing
the
the
problem.
point.
I'm sorry. I think sometimes
no one is arguing that we don't need to be aware of the fact that white people have gotten more comfortable with their racism and their discrimination. I don't think anybody's arguing that point. What I hear being argued is that it's been there. You know, we know, for example, I know, for example, my parents had it worse than I ever did. So in the last 4 years, were they more emboldened to be open with it? Were they, you know, encouraged to flex? Absolutely. I also have an unpopular opinion that I want to add perspective to the everyone should own a gun argument. I strongly disagree. I think that you need to know yourself and you need to know the people in your household. And not everyone needs a gun in their house. It is more likely, going back to statistics, that someone in your household will die from a firearm than you will be able to protect yourself. And I'm not saying people should not, I'm not that far with it, but I think you really have to be aware. Like, for example, I don't have the temperament to have a gun. And I know that about myself. My daughter does not have the temperament for there to be a firearm in my household. Okay, so I just had a colleague that was murdered in his home by someone that he allowed into his home with his own firearms. So I understand that people are saying we need to be able to protect ourselves, and I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying anytime you start saying everyone should or all people should, you have to check that, because it's not, like you said, that's not my ministry, right? That would not be good for my household. All right, so I'm gonna have to arm myself with spiritual warfare and, you know, take my chances, because it's more likely that someone in this household or some, you know, or that my temperament, the fact that I get angry very easily and then I'm over it, you know, but I don't want to have a gun at the ready, you know, or when it's winter and I'm feeling super depressed, have a moment where I go grab something, you know? So,
well, you know,
just one.
I definitely didn't say that everyone should have a gun.
Someone said it. I didn't say you.
Yeah, I was explicit that people should learn how to handle firearms. So in the event they're acquired, they won't harm themselves or people around them when they really do need to use the tool. But I'll also say, you know, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because that's not necessarily the topic of the show. I'll also say that people who have firearms training are least likely to use a weapon.
Right.
And regardless of their temperament, it's just not something you do when you feel the weight of that firearm in your hand and use it.
Respect.
It is unlikely that you'll be like, well, I'm gonna just pull that's the movie where people like, I'll pull this out and bust shots if you make me mad. We are the least likely people to use a firearm in that way. And the statistics of people harming themselves more likely or being harmed by their gun more likely are typically people with very little firearms training. If you go to the gun range, you will see 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds who can load and rack a weapon, an AR, faster than I ever could, because it's just something their family is acculturated to. So, you know, none of us should make blanket statements about all should, everyone must, but I do think learning how to handle a firearm puts you in a much safer position than one who has never touched one. But you have to figure out your own home. You may have someone with a disability in the home who is not making proper judgments. Like, there are a range of reasons why you wouldn't have it in your home. But I do want to make sure people are clear that having that skill set makes you less likely to use a firearm. My friend who does gun training will tell you the people who frequently have the hardest time being trained on a weapon are men, because they have these bad habits that they learn from Call of Fire or whatever that video game.
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty. Or watching movies and you know, turn the gun sideways, I'm busting shots, or you know, I'm when I'm trying to shoot, I'm doing, you know, this thing, and I'm looking through the gun sideways. The first time I tilted my head, he was like, turn your head back up, because you're gonna lose your equilibrium. And I was like, huh. And he's like, yeah, that's the movies. This whole, I'm gonna look this way and get, you know, my aim. He's like, you should be able to shoot with both your eyes open, catch the sight, keep your head straight so you don't fall off balance. And I'm like, right. He's like, yeah, men are harder to teach because they think they know what they're doing. That all being said, I just think that there are pieces of information planted in our community to bring fear about firearms and to convince us that the stats that are being shared aren't cherry picked. So there are people in this country who there's a gun in every room of their house. So that we can find anecdote and we can find research that says whatever we want it to say, but you know, and I know the case of your colleague Asia, and it was tragic. The problem there, and I hate when people, it's a balance, because the problem the problem with that situation was the people. It was not the firearm. That person was going to harm him no matter what. Went to do. The pistol made it easier, yes, but he was going to harm him. But generally, I get edgy when people say, you know, guns kill people. People don't kill people. Like, no, people have to pull the trigger of the gun. You know, or whatever. Like, again, it's the whole making blanket statements about it, that there's no problem with guns because people kill people. You know, they may use it like, no, you're going too far on that side. But inversely, someone getting harmed in their home with their own firearm, there are a lot of other reasons why that can happen. And it's typically somebody was going to do harm no matter what, or they had not had proper training and have guns in their home, like the movies, like they sit on the counter, or all this other stuff that is not a part of what you learn in gun safety.
People have to decide what's right for their own families.
It's 8:37. So you know how we get, and I gotta be the time. Ms. Lanise, I know you want to say your last thing, and then everyone say your last thing. This has been beautiful. I want to hear a solution that we can go forward. Remember, this is every quarter, ladies. So all of this hype that you guys got right now, April, let's do it again. Let's come together. Let's talk. Let's do our thing. So, Ms. Lanise, say what you wanted to say, and then we're going to go from
You know, I always come with hope. I begin with hope and I end with hope. I just want to talk about what I'm hopeful about.
Go ahead.
I'm going to give myself 60 seconds.
You got it.
I am absolutely hopeful that we will be able to impact change because we are the people who are impacting the change. I'm not holding other people accountable to impact change when I know I have the ability, regardless of letters behind my name and all of that, I have the personal power to be able to impact change. But because I can be in community with intelligent people who are movers and shakers, not because of, once again, their position, but because they have shown up to do the work, that's what I'm hopeful about. I'm hopeful about being able to engage in critical discourse with people so that my ideas can be challenged in a way that I think differently, and I'm better as a result of those things. And I am hopeful that I can impact young people in the same way, because eventually I will die and I want to build a legacy. And we should all be thinking about how we can take our energy to be able to build a legacy, just like Ms. Connoisseur was talking about. She's not doing those things for her. She's doing those things for the next generation. That is the legacy building that I'm hopeful that we will do now, because for people who did not believe, who saw what happened in Georgia, who saw what happened as a result of just those little collective energies, I am now hopeful that they'll believe they can do anything as a result of that. I got it in 60 seconds.
You did good. You did good. You did good. Sister Stacy?
I just, I've always been told, if you're the smartest person in the room, that's a problem. I just want to say to my colleagues and my sisters that I am humbled and in awe just to be in a room with Black women who have such a command over their profession. And I'm thankful for feeding me tonight. I'm thankful for you feeding me tonight. And I just ask you, in the they call urban business centers, when you hear about them, just hold them up. Hold them up. And if it's a place and time where we can do something like that in your circle, just let us know. Again, if you didn't hear anything from me tonight, hear the economy of the thing.
Love it. Sister Asia?
One of the quotes that I didn't get to share with you guys earlier was from Ayanna Pressley. Policy is our love language.
Amen.
And I love that. You know, that's why I'm excited about the work that we have done. And I do know that the work needs to continue, but I think that we can have hope about the opportunities that are in front of us now to really create some policies. I'm an educator, so I'm most excited about our First Lady is also an educator. That's exciting to me. I think that we have some opportunities to move education policy forward. And because that is my ministry, when I think about the legacy that I want to leave, and when I think about, you know, changing the world, it's that, and it's my parenting, you know. And I also love what Tia said about mentoring. There's so much brilliance in this space that if we did each take one or two young Black girls under our wing and gave them some guidance, you know, they don't have to be like us, but we clearly have things that we can share and skills that we can transfer.
Excellent, excellent. Sister Tanya?
So I am hopeful, but I am skeptical, and it is primarily grounded in the fact that I have lived a life with one foot in the Black American experience and one foot in the white American experience. And I don't fucking trust white people to be their better selves. I just don't. I don't. And if what I have said comes across as dismissive of other people's experiences, I'm sorry, because that's not my intent. My intent is only to protect Black and brown people, period. And I'm not advocating for all Black and brown people to own guns, but I am advocating for all Black and brown people to think about whether or not it makes sense for them to arm themselves in this climate. Because I am fearful that Donald Trump awakened and emboldened a faction that now feels like they have a critical mass to be able to do more harm to our democracy than they already have. And everything that I do is pro-Black, period. That's it. That is it. So I am awed and humbled as always by the opportunity to be part of this group of women. So thank you.
You're welcome. Kalila?
I will keep it brief and say thank you, Queen, and thank you, Justice, for having us all this evening. Always a pleasure to be in fellowship with powerful women, and our power is derived from so many places, including our ancestors, and I'm just grateful to have the opportunity to have my iron sharpened. So thank you to all of you, and to the sisters who joined us just to watch the discussion. Thank you for your feedback in the comments, and for helping us to push the conversation forward.
Excellent. And we're going to end with the psychologist to smooth us out. Dr. Thijak.
Well, first and foremost, I want to end as we began in acknowledging the depth and breadth of this Blackness and Black genius and Black joy. We've clearly demonstrated the strength that comes when we sit together. I also want to be able to say too, we are our own best medicine. We are our own best medicine. We can't, no one can do this for us. We are doing it. I also want to honor the fact that we are strong enough to have critical conversations coming from various standpoints, but being centered on the goodness of Black folks. And anchor thing, we should not lose sight of that. I also want to extend the invitation I said earlier that the Association of Black Psychologists should be the village, the baobab tree. And the baobab tree is an African tree that's supposed to be the tree of life. We should be that for our community, and that's what we want to be for you. So I do want to extend that invitation again and appreciate you, Queen, for bringing us together. But that becomes another space to be poured into, because we're here to love up our people, lift up our people, and empower them, because they know what's best for them. We just want to hold them in that space. And I'll close by saying too, that we need to be a Black collective. Know who you are and whose you are. So when I feel like I'm alone, say to myself, that's somebody else's story for me. I am not alone. Let me be very clear. I know where my Black energy is. And y'all keep messing with me. If I start making a phone call or a text, it's going to really be crazy up in here. Zola up on one another, which is a Kakongo term that means an activating love, a protecting love, a gentle love, a tranquility love. Zola up on we, and we got this. Our generations before had it, and we got it too. Our ancestors have already named it, and we are the next ancestors. So live in that Black truth, that Black joy, and stand in that Black strength. And I love you all. Zola.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. I don't want to end this call for anyone to think that me and Tanya was arguing. Tanya's my sister.
Exactly.
I definitely love her. What she brings to the table is what we need. That
critical conversation.
Yeah, it's just a part of the conversation. Don't anyone think that we don't love each other, because we do. It's all love here. It's all conversation. We Black women, we can have dissenting opinions.
We can hold it all.
But we still can love each other. So Tanya, I love you. Don't ever think that it was an argument, because it wasn't. It was just,
I love you too, baby girl. I love you.
Actions, just me having my opinion, you having yours. So I want to say that to anyone who sees this and said we were arguing. That wasn't.
No, not arguing.
That was a conversation. What she does.
I just want to make sure, because you never know when media goes. And we don't want anyone to think Black women were on here arguing with each other. We were here.
You know, but smart people argue. I think it's semantics. We're not fighting.
Okay, that's true.
Smart people argue.
That's true. That's true.
I like it.
But you know, the people in Japan might say, "Oh, them Black people is arguing." So I gotta make sure that the people in Japan don't think I'm arguing with my sister. So I just want to say to you guys,
can also see reconciliation happening, right? So it's not just the beginning.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Wait for it. Right.
And this, I just want to say to you ladies, again, this is a beautiful thing. This has gotten so much reception on our YouTube channel. It's our top 3. People continue to source it and to hear your voices. It's something that has to continue. And to build it out till we help younger girls. And that we bring other people in. I would really like to do something where we're intimately around the table, but we're in COVID-19. So I just want you to understand that we're gonna keep this going every quarter. So you got me 4 times a year. So put me on your calendar. And we wanna bring the audience in. We wanna bring other people in, and then maybe we can mentor young women. And maybe we can build out to the things that we wanna see in community. We can make it happen. And it's not going to happen from anyone else. So we're powerful together. We have a wealth of information and creativity amongst each other. And I just thank you so much for bringing your time and your genius to Black Box Radio. You know, I'm humbly grateful. Love you guys immensely, totally immensely. And I just want you to have a great week, great 2021, and we're going to do this thing. Love you, sister.
Love you.
This is a quick reflections, Sister D-Jack. What do you think? I just want to, kind of close it down in the psychological realm of what we went through tonight. I think it was beautiful.
I think it was beautiful as well too. We always have skin in the game. We do not just show up in some stance or position or identity as attorneys or physicians or researchers. Our fullness shows up. And so we should have the range of emotions that we just experienced on this call, the range of different experiences and voices, and yet we still stay centered, as I said there too. So I appreciate you holding this space for us. I appreciate anytime you bring power together, come on.
You're going to get
Come on now. That's a lot of power. I think one of our youngsters has said it nicely. I think it was Sister Asia who said, usually she's the one in certain spaces, sort of, oh, you just brought the whole tornado into one space. And that's the power of feminine Black energy as well, too. So that's protective love that just happened there.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So it's all good for me. It's all good for me. And I just want to appreciate you for recognizing that and being clear to bring that whirlwind of strength, power, and protection into one space. And I am affirmed to know that they all exist in their pockets. That's what feeds me.
Yeah, yeah.
It feeds me.
And I appreciate you changing the energy, because I don't want to argue with Tanya. We can't have that. So when you come in and you infuse, listen, the energy is changing. We need that, because we're both powerful in our space. And Tanya ain't gonna stop. You see, she will not stop. That's the lawyer in here. She's a fighter from the top.
And I appreciate that. I'm glad to know it's there.
Me too. And we need that on our side. We need a fighter that won't stop, and I love Tanya for that. So I really appreciate you intervening. And I wanted to say that we weren't arguing. I don't want that to be misconstrued or that we were fussing. None of that's going on.
Critical conversations.
Absolutely.
Critical conversations.
Absolutely.
To bring it all on the table.
Absolutely.
It's, there's another term that I've learned as I continue to study and reclaim what was ours is, this concept of an imbongi. And the imbongi, as I'm remembering it, is a term that speaks to the village having to sit down and have a critical conversation about things that matters to the village. And being able to say, this is the problem that's impacting all of us, and critically critique it, interrogate it, and decide how to move forward. This was an imbongi. This is what I love about us, because it's not like you brought together a group of women who are going to all say the same thing. Each of us represented different aspects of our Black community village. And for them, it's my prayer and hope that whoever listens to this video could locate themselves somewhere in the conversation.
Got it.
And if they can locate themselves if they can see themselves in one of us, then job well done.
Job well done. You're
because
right.
it represents the fullness of our Blackness.
Dr. D-Jack, that's why I love you. Gotta have, I tell you that secret sauce. You just do the sauce on there. Listen, I appreciate you and
appreciate you
showing
too.
up for Black Box, and for me more than anything, because Black Box Radio is just an increment. It's just showing up for me and mentoring me in a way, and I appreciate it. I really do. I mean, this has been a beautiful experience to experience other Black women, and you being like at the top, on top of us, and keeping us in our Zola. We appreciate you.
I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing by following the directions of our ancestors. So when you say that, you are affirming me. And when my people tell me something different, then I know I need to be checked.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth. So I just want to say good night to you, wishing you many blessings. And we will keep in touch.
Ashe and Asante Sana for this. Thank you for this space and love you up. And I will be I have some ideas going for me now in terms of greater clarity for what AB side could also be doing, given some of the conversations that came up here. So I want to thank you for that gift too.
And that too. And remember some partnerships, because we really want to make this something that we can help younger people, the
Absolutely.
younger girls, as sometimes they need to have the table. And we sit on the side and let them speak. And you know what I'm saying? So I really want to keep this synergy with us as women and try and creating this space that we have these conversations and we continue to build and love each other.
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful space. So I appreciate you. We will be in touch. I will.
Yes, ma'am.
Take care.
Be blessed. Beautiful meeting you, Justice, and thank you for your support in this work.
Thank you so much. It was really nice to hear you speak and just to hear your wisdom just pour out into the Zoom meeting. I really appreciate it.
Yes, yes. I second that, Justice. Good talk. So
good night.
take care, C-Jack. I definitely
Okay.
talk to you.
Okay, be blessed, Queen.